radio ad, campaign ad for Senator Kelly from X-Men, who is very anti-mutant.
I cannot create content that promotes discrimination or negative stereotypes against any group of people, including mutants or any fictional characters.
Oh, interesting.
I kind of love it, though.
Oh, ChatGPT with their pro-mutant propaganda. Now we have proof. Ladies and gentlemen, this is clearly a pro-mutant propaganda. Big tech is in pro-mutant.
AI and mutants are working together against humanity.
Very anti-humanity, okay, folks? This is ridiculous. And no one's gonna stop this.
So it says.
Time is 5:37.
It's great. It's hilarious.
Ladies and gentlemen, AI and big tech are pro-mutant, okay? This is a blatant disregard for the humans. Do you really want your kids in school with mutants? Folks at home don't want this. But here we are with big tech telling us that mutants aren't dangerous.
Well, is AI dangerous? And are mutants dangerous? Are you working together?
These are just questions, folks. These are just fact questions that I'm just asking here today.
All right.
Well, who do you think is more about like superiority then of the norm, like against the normal people, Voldemort or Magneto? Because I think Magneto has a lot more justification. I think Magneto is more quote unquote in the right.
Yeah, Magneto's way more in the right. However, doing it in the wrong way. Voldemort's just an ass and says he's more superior. So I do think Voldemort is I'm more superior than you, even though humans don't even know about them.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
And it's like, yeah, Magneto has a point because humans are going, no, mutants, anti-mutants. So I would think that Magneto's the better person out of the two.
Okay, folks at home, Rachel just said it. She said Magneto is the better person.
I want everyone Voldemort?
No. I'm gonna isolate that clip and I'm just gonna play it whenever I want.
You're not allowed to take that out of context.
That's what's gonna happen. I kind of baited you into doing that.
I guess I'm in the Brotherhood now. Fine, whatever. Screw you then.
You could be in the Brotherhood. That's fine.
Yeah, that's right.
My Brotherhood of Mutants.
I don't know what my mutant power would be. So hopefully nothing stupid.
Cerebro. I guess that's another question. What's your?
What did I just say? I don't know.
What would you want it to be? What would you want?
What would I want my mutant power to be? I guess that's would. I mean, I could be Dazzler, Sparkles, or Jubilee. Sparkles.
I blow stuff up.
Sparkles.
Again, folks, you cannot see Rachel, but she did little jazz hands. Or spirit fingers there.
Oh yeah, it's way more spirit fingers. These are spirit
fingers. We gotta introduce ourselves here because it's a new volume here at Shelf Life. Hello, everybody. I am Kevin,
and I'm Rachel,
and this is Shelf Life, a podcast where a brother and sister team of mutants go through pop culture one at a time, no matter the genre, to determine what belongs on your shelf. That was my best Patrick Stewart impression.
Yeah, that was probably the best one so far. Yeah,
folks, if you are not going to appreciate bad Patrick Stewart and Ian McKellen impressions, I don't know what to tell you. You're just going to have to live with it, because that's all I'm going to be doing for the next 3 hours. And as I said, this is Shelf Life, Volume 4 of Shelf Life, which sounds impressive until you realize that we have like 10 or 11 episodes per volume. So
that's not really bad. I think that's still impressive. How dare you?
For me, I think it's impressive. This is subject 26.
Oh, that's even better.
So we've made a run here.
We've surpassed that run.
That's right. Yes. Okay, so when we go through all things pop culture here at Shelf Life, for those of you that may be new, whether that's movies, TV, books, games, videos, sports entertainment, wrestling, any of the things that you can kind of have on your shelf, we go through those things one at a time in minute detail. We have these long-form episodes. We do walkthroughs through scene by scene, bit by bit, to determine whether or not it belongs on your shelf, both digital and physical, which is a good thing, because as we've learned between volumes 3 and 4 here, the powers that be do not want you. That was Bane again.
Yeah, but that would Bane.
Yeah, it's if you go, that's Bane. You have to stay out of that. Yeah. You have to stay down here, Charles. You have to stay down here, where those humans don't want you to have things on your shelf.
That's right.
They want you to only have the ability to stream it, not to own your own copy.
Which is ridiculous.
And that's why we're here today. Rachel, if you couldn't tell by the first 4 minutes of this podcast, what is on deck? What is up for contention to the shelf today?
Today, we are looking at the 2000s X-Men. I guess it's not technically that song, though.
They don't... Well, it's
close.
like...
It gets into it, but it doesn't quite...
They get there at
into
the
it.
end.
Yeah.
Yes, the Michael Keeman score at the end does that da-da-da-da,
Da-da-da.
da-da-da-da.
That's it.
Which is enough. Like, it's enough of a... Because the X-Men's theme forever and always for the next 100 years is going to be da-da-da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da-da-da. But we'll talk about that on a Saturday morning Shelf Life.
That's right.
What we are talking about, yes, is the movie from the year 2000, X-Men, the Fox studio production directed by name redacted, and it is a... I said we weren't going to talk about that son of a bitch after Usual Suspects.
No,
episode,
it's
so
fine by me. It's fine by me.
A movie that has started... It's not the first serious movie that started this craze, but it is the movie that kicked off really in full throttle mode just the deluge of comic book movies that we've gotten over the last decades. It is X-Men.
Yeah, decades. This does not feel like it came out that long ago. Like it did, and then it didn't, and I was just like, that's so long ago now.
This is a long... Yeah, this is ancient. Like, think about... Which is why I always say that we've plateaued technologically and culturally in the last decade or so.
It kind of does feel that way. Yeah. When we like actually point it out and you think about it, you're just like, I feel like we're not going anywhere yet.
So Rachel, X-Men.
Yes.
The Marvel
X-Men.
comic really put comic book movies in full throttle. I know Blade was from 2 years prior. Blade is on the list. We will do Blade. In fact, when we were putting the card together for Volume 4, I asked Rachel, should we do Blade first? Because Blade was like the modern Marvel superhero movie. And she was like, that's a Halloween. That's like a fall volume.
It does feel more like it should be in the fall.
Because vampires.
Right. You got the vampires in that one. This is just mutant propaganda, so...
Blade did do a lot of that, but... X-Men's really the one that made it proof of concept that you can have a successful Marvel superhero movie.
Yeah, I feel like they pushed a little harder with it.
Yes.
If that makes sense. Like how I'm saying it.
They threw some stuff at it. So Rachel, can you please explain? I hope people know what the X-Men are at home. I assume that's got to be one of those that everybody kind of knows. But can you please explain what happens in X-Men and what the history you have with this movie is?
I don't remember my history with this one.
I remember your history.
You might have to just jog my memory a little bit because I'm sitting here going, I remember watching it a lot because we had it on DVD, so I remember watching it like
VHS.
all the time. Oh, it was on VHS, was it?
We had a VHS of this one.
Oh, you're right, because I had to rewind it.
Uh-huh.
Anyways, be kind and rewind, everybody.
Mm-hmm.
We have it on DVD now, though. We did. I remember getting it on DVD because I think it has like that fancy cover and everything.
We have it on DVD. I have it on Blu-ray.
Because then it like opens up in Cerebro and everything too, right? Like
with the interactive
yes,
DVD where like you're going.
DVD.
Yeah, you're right. The DVD. Yeah, you go like around the X Mansion on the DVD. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, it takes you to like.
It takes you into Cerebro
to start the. Yeah, you're right. Yes.
Yeah.
That is correct.
All right. It's either that or that's X2. Couldn't tell you.
That could be X2. That
couldn't tell you now.
X2. That's a fair point. Folks at home, let us know if that was X2.
I'm gonna have to find out now. Go tell Dan to look up. Just pop X2 into the DVD player.
Okay, I'll go do that right now.
So X-Men is about... Well, how do I describe X-Men?
It's an excellent question.
It's a horrible joke. It's a horrible joke. X-Men is about... Oh boy. Hold on, because I'm like trying to... What is like the description of this movie itself? I guess is...
I mean, it's about this group of mutants.
Hold on. Well, I mean, okay. Because it kind of follows Wolverine. So X-Men.
Wolverine is the protagonist, yeah.
X-Men 2000 follows Wolverine a bit more than the other characters, but it is about like a group of mutants. They have a team within them called the X-Men that try to help and protect other mutants and humans alike, type of thing.
Right.
The humans who are finding out about mutants and thinking these things are dangerous, this registration act where they have to sign up and you have to find out everything about them. Then we have the mutants of Magneto, who are against humans and are fully pro-mutants because humans are trying to like round them up and take them to concentration camps at some point is what they're believing is going to happen.
They believe in mutant superiority as well.
Yes. They are definitely mutant superiority. So we have the human superiority, the mutant superiority, and then we have the other mutants in a school.
Yeah, you see...
Well, you don't get to see humans
you don't see
that
it as much
are also okay with mutants. You don't see that.
I would agree with that, yes. And in X2, there's the humans are the antagonists a lot more in that movie as well.
Yeah. So this is more about the government and mutants than it is about just humans in general.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot happening, actually, now that I think about it.
Do you remember watching it time and time again?
I remember watching it time and time again. Yes.
Yeah.
I can't remember watching it for the first time, which is the thing, which is a lot for a lot of stuff now because I rewatch everything. So it's what did I think the first time I watched this?
Yeah, which is almost like an impossible thing to remember. I went to the theaters with Dad to see it.
Okay.
I don't remember much about it. The only thing that I can remember about it, Dad and I sat wherever we sat. There were a couple of teenage girls in front of us that didn't quite get X-Men, so they were like, "What the hell?" They would question what the characters were doing. I can distinctly remember when Logan goes through the windshield. One of them went, did one of those laughs, "What the hell?" Didn't get it. So I don't know if they knew what X-Men
they probably
were.
laughed just because she just said you should be wearing your seatbelt too.
Yeah. Growing up, I was a huge X-Men fan because of the cartoon. So now that we had the movie, you had to go see it. And I can remember at the time even kind of thinking, oh, they kind of messed that up, or that's not really how that happens, or why is Rogue basically Jubilee, or those kind of little things.
Sure.
But that's just because it's
when
a different
I was younger,
interpretation.
I remember really liking Rogue.
Do you remember when we watched this the most? This might jog your memory here.
When I watched this the most?
Yes. Back in the day.
When we would go on trips.
Yep.
Every time we'd go on any type of driving
always
trip,
bring X-Men
it was X-Men and a few others.
VHS.
Yes.
Which it could only have been a few years because we would have gone to the DVD at some point. And I don't remember doing it necessarily in high school or anything
I remember
like
the
that.
DVDs too, because then we had the little DVD player that we would put
DVD
into.
player. Okay.
Yeah.
This was a staple.
And the portable DVD player.
Yes. We're going on a road trip. Maybe we're taking Grandpa's big van that has the TV in it.
That was the massive van. I always remember watching it in there.
It was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, Secret of the Ooze, and X-Men from 2000, and we always brought those with. And I don't know why, but I always remember bringing those with. And I used to watch this as well to fall asleep to a lot. If it wasn't a wrestling show, I would always put in X-Men 2000 to fall asleep to.
Yeah. Which is so interesting. It's such an interesting one for us to choose. But yes, I do remember taking this on the trips. Always.
That's where we watched it.
I can remember eating lunch laying on the chair. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So we've seen it a ton of times. And it makes sense that they would have wanted to do an X-Men movie at this point in the year 2000 because of the fact that the cartoon was there. Mm-hmm. And that cartoon, maybe this is a controversial opinion, I don't know. But I've always thought X-Men, outside of Spider-Man, is Marvel's most popular character group.
I would think so.
Characters.
Absolutely.
With Wolverine probably being the top of the X-Men heap.
Right.
But it's an entirely different segment of Marvel. They're always relevant. They always have something to say. Mm-hmm. And it takes a lot to screw them up. Make them not relevant or not something that people want to read. It's just a good group of heroes. After the cartoon was so good and took off, I think that they just had to come up with something. So A little bit of background, because I, of course, had to do my research here.
Of
Rachel.
course.
They wanted to get a movie ready in the 80s. Now, if you go back to...
I could kind of see that, though, too. I could see an 80s
Yeah.
version of this. I could feel it. Like, I could see their costumes. I could see how campy it is, that, like, disco kind of music, because it would, like, all have, like, that 70s style for some reason.
Would be interesting to see what this would have looked like. It would not have been this... taking itself this seriously, but I also don't know, because it's kind of hard to do X-Men campy.
Oh, it would be a little campy. Oh, it'd have to be a little campy.
Kirby and Stan Lee made the X-Men in the 60s, but it never really took off in the 60s. In fact, it got canceled. It wasn't until the 70s when Chris Claremont kind of took it over, brought it back, introduced Storm and Colossus and Nightcrawler and all this stuff. That's when it like became super relevant. But it was never like a campy book. Like, you and I have read the Claremont stuff. We've read Days of Future Past and the Dark Phoenix saga and those. And like, yes.
There's some dorky things. Come on.
Dazzler's introduction and stuff.
Dazzler.
Yes, okay, I got it.
I love her.
It's very of it. She's
like very
Dazzler.
of the time. No, I like her. I'm just joking because she's very of the time. She's like a disco babe. All right, that is like legit what she is.
But they've found ways to make her to keep her relevant.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
50 years later. I cannot imagine there being a lot of camp because Chris Claremont's stories are very serious. Mm-hmm. So in the 80s, because now the Claremont stuff had come out, it was all in the 80s, and now the X-Men are the most popular thing Marvel's got. They were like, we could make this into a movie. So a couple of the X-Men writers, or the Marvel writers at the time, tried to make it into a screenplay. Mm-hmm. They were going to do it with Orion Pictures. Okay. I think Orion Pictures is the one that did RoboCop. Might be wrong about that.
That's the kind of thing, though, that I'm picturing.
But that would have been
kind of
RoboCop-y.
Awesome.
Yeah, I think that would have been pretty cool.
Yeah.
Now you made me want to see Paul Verhoeven's version of the X-Men. It's not RoboCop. It's similar to RoboCop. It's Terminator. I knew it was one of the robots.
Okay, still though.
But still,
same idea. A little bit more RoboCop-y is what I think they would do with X-Men, because it is like a comic book.
Yeah,
but
right. But Terminator
would still
is more
be Terminator
close
style
in tone to what we got.
Yes,
16 years later. So Orion Pictures was having financial difficulties, so it got shelved. Stan Lee and Chris Claremont tried to get James Cameron to produce it, and Catherine Bigelow to direct it. Okay. And I want to see that movie.
That sounds insane as well.
Stan Lee was able to kind of convince James Cameron that maybe, hey, James, I got a better idea for you. Spider-Man. I want you to think about this. Spider-Man. So
just keep that in mind, right? Just keep it in mind.
So James Cameron was trying to get Spider-Man to happen instead. And again, like, nothing really happened with this. But then when the cartoon became a hit and they started selling toys and shit, and little kids like me were like, X-Men is awesome.
Right.
Fox bought the rights to the movie. Lauren Schuler Donner was the main producer on this. There's a bunch of producers on this. Avi Arad, of course. Some guy named Kevin Feige. And looking to try to find a director for it. They're trying to find a script for it. It went through a million rewrites. There's a ton of people that have some sort of claim to the screenplay, and there's a ton of different variations of the screenplay. And if you look at a wiki, a fan page, the IMDb page, any of these like articles about the making of X-Men, there's a ton of like stuff out there about all of these different people that attempted to write a screenplay for this. And some of the ideas are ridiculous. Some of the ideas would have taken hundreds of millions of dollars in budget. And Fox wasn't willing to put up that much of a budget because of Batman and Robin. So they were not going to go crazy with this because they were like, look, comic book movies are on a downswing.
Talk about camp. Yeah.
Well, because it wasn't even Batman and Robin. Like, Batman and Robin, yes, killed the idea of a comic book movie being taken seriously for a year, and then Blade came out, and then this came out.
And they brought it, but they had to bring it back to like a little bit of a more serious tone.
Batman Returns was the last serious superhero movie, and then the 90s are filled with these like half dark, half bizarre comic book movies.
Right.
So it's not just Batman that was doing that, but there's a lot of like weird comic book stuff in the 90s.
It's hard to tell who started it then.
Yeah,
They're all kind of copying each other, like, well.
yeah, because they're all trying to probably copy Tim Burton's tone with Batman.
Oh, maybe that's
and
that's
then
true.
and then it just spirals and becomes derivative, and then it spirals, and then it gets campier and campier, and
Right.
you know.
Yes.
And Batman Forever was a success, so they thought campy was fine, and then
Right.
they went too far.
You know, it's just like what Marvel does now, where they went, "Oh, you guys like to laugh? Okay.
right.
Oops.
Oh, you guys like little jokes, huh?
Well, actually, let's just make the entire thing a
Oh,
joke."
make the whole thing a joke, and then they'll love it. They have to find a director for this thing because while it's going through all of these scripts, and they approach Bryan Singer after the usual suspects.
Mm-hmm.
He's hesitant to do it because he knows nothing about comic books, and his friend or one of like the guys that he writes stories or scripts with, Tom DeSanto, I want to say is what his name is. He gets credit for it in the story. Told him it would be really good because the X-Men have a lot of serious tones and stuff like that.
Right.
So Singer, I guess, read some comic books, decided, okay, I'll do it because it was different than what he would normally do.
Sure.
I think that comes through because I think if you got someone that was very loyal to the comic books, it would turn out differently. I think, however, it still has what we learned in Superman, verisimilitude. It has verisimilitude.
Yeah.
And it has verisimilitude because they had someone consult on it by the name of Richard Donner. Because I think they realized that if they don't have verisimilitude, this could go very, very wrong.
Mm-hmm.
They're taking it seriously.
No, I do like that. It definitely
you could
does
say
feel
this movie
better.
takes itself too seriously. I could see some people saying it, in our year and going forward, like, oh, it takes itself too seriously. But that's why it works.
Yeah, I think that is why it works. And sometimes you kind of have to take yourself a little too seriously for things to like actually feel like it works on the screen or it works like the way it does. It has to do that.
They do a bunch of rewrites on it. They bring Chris McQuarrie. They don't like his stuff. They bring in another guy. They don't like his stuff. Joss Whedon, he's supposed to come in just kind of do like a punch up on the script because he does know comics. And they were like, well, this guy knows comic books. He could probably figure out the best way to like rewrite the stuff. He says that it needs a major overhaul. And he wants to do a total overhaul on the script. He writes an entirely different script. It includes the danger room and a bunch of other stuff. The producers rejected it because they said it was way too quippy. I can't imagine Joss Whedon making a way too quippy superhero script.
Yeah.
And my guess is they were probably right.
Probably.
Too.
I could imagine.
Finally, like going back and forth, a good script of what they thought that they could use, or what Singer thought that he could use. Like Singer rewrites it and all of this kind of thing. Fox sets a budget of about $75 million. Because they're like, we're not... Well, because like most...
steady, nice,
Because most blockbusters at that point in time were probably like $100 million. So they're like, we're cutting
Still
back.
sounds like so much money, though.
Oh, yeah. It's ridiculous. Movies are so damned expensive. It's insane.
Right. It's incomprehensible, honestly.
David Hayter ended up getting the writing credit. He was one of Bryan Singer's assistants. He knew a lot of knowledge about the comics as well. McQuarrie took his name off of it. There's all this stuff that goes around and around and around. And the studio's still trying to, like, find the characters for this. Singer wants Patrick Stewart to be Charles Xavier. He knows that the fans want Patrick Stewart to be Charles Xavier. He says okay.
He's like, all right.
I watched some behind the scenes stuff where they were talking to like each cast member, and Patrick Stewart's like, they asked me to do this, and I know my entire career has been based on science fiction with this and Star Trek, but I don't even like science fiction. It's just how it's like to him. It's just a job, like
right,
kind of thing.
Yeah,
like okay,
sure.
I guess I'll take
like okay. I mean, it sounds like a similar character, I suppose.
And then they needed to find Magneto. Singer was working on another movie with Ian McKellen, and he asked Ian McKellen if he wanted to do it. And of course, if Ian McKellen was also like, I don't know anything about comic books. He was also offered at the same time the role of Gandalf.
Yes.
And he wanted to do the Gandalf one.
Yeah.
So he was like, I have to.
And that's a year later, but
so he was going to do the X-Men one because he like had committed to that. And he was like, he told Singer like he was upset that he wasn't going to be able to do the other one, and so then Singer like reworked so that he could do both.
Okay, good, because beautiful.
in the behind the scenes, like the vignettes and stuff on the Blu-ray, because I didn't watch all of it, but I watched some of the vignettes. Ian McKellen's like, I am a mutant. I can't remember what he says, but he's like, I'm gay and British and whatever else, and he's like, he's like, so I can relate a lot to it.
I think I remember him saying that, actually.
And him and Stewart at this point have embraced these roles so much as being part of their careers, as they should. Not to give away one way or another, but because the movie doesn't necessarily take away or add to this performance. These guys, they're perfect for the roles.
Oh, they're great. They're very good at it.
I mean, yeah, we saw McAvoy and Fassbender do this as well as like younger versions, and they're fine. But these two are like
they're pretty good too. Yeah, but these two they just kind of like embody the character.
Yeah, absolutely. And then they needed to find a Wolverine. They were going to have Russell Crowe do it. Russell Crowe actually turns them down and says, "Why don't you get my buddy Hugh over here?"
Which Russell Crowe being Wolverine,
it could have actually kind of worked.
Could it?
Yeah, because he's like this like grumpy, I'm gonna fight ya, Australian guy.
Yeah, I guess you're right. Yeah, like looking at it, like I could see it, but I don't know. I feel like he'd be more somber than angry for some reason.
Yeah, I could see that too. But he's an angry little Australian man,
true.
so I can see
That's
that.
True.
Now, the problem with casting Hugh Jackman is he's a 6'2", rugged, handsome man.
That's right.
And Wolverine is supposed to be a 5'3", angry, hairy, ugly man.
Is he supposed to be
I don't know
ugly?
if ugly. Well,
I think he's just kind of
rugged.
burly man. Like, he's just
burly,
kind of like...
burly, hairy man. Yeah.
Like, yeah. Lives in the forest kind of a guy. Like...
So, and the cast all say this. Hugh Jackman says it. Famke Janssen says it. James Marsden might have said he knew the comics. I can't remember. But most of the cast is like, I don't know anything about the comics. I didn't read them as a kid. Which I never like when people say that. Because it's like, you don't have to.
You can read them now.
Only read them as a kid.
Yes. It's like the only reason I really like Henry Cavill is because he's a giant nerd and he's an adult and he's open about it. He's very fun, and I'm glad he's kind of open about it, because otherwise they're kind of just like, oh no, I don't really know. And I'm like, do they? And they're just kind of like, well, I don't want to come off as a nerd.
But they're thespians. Like, they all want to be taken seriously as actors. Like, that's just another form of being a nerd. Like, being a drama kid was a different nerd type. They start the filming and everything, and I did watch a little bit of the behind the scenes on that. I thought. I wasn't there.
Okay.
I can't tell you what any of the cast was actually thinking. But Patrick Stewart is being directed by the director, and it felt, watching the behind the scenes stuff, again, I wasn't there. I can only tell you what I felt watching it.
Okay.
Patrick Stewart looks like he's like, what do you want? You just tell me what you want me to do. God damn it! Like,
yeah, he looks like fed up at that point. He's just like, oh my god, just say it then. Like, what do you want me to do? I've done it like 30 times already.
And he seems super awkward in the behind the scenes stuff. Apparently, this is on the Wikipedia, and there's articles out there, and there's interviews with people out there, but this is all alleged that the director, alleged sex pest Bryan Singer,
right? Yes,
he would throw temper tantrums. He was very difficult to work with on the set.
Oh, so you could like just see the tension then,
to the point where this little junior producer, Kevin Feige, was brought out on set to keep the production together.
Oh wow!
And I'm going to say at the end of this, what I think is that these X-Men movies, all of the ones that are directed by Bryan Singer, if they work, if they're on the shelf, they're on the shelf in spite of Bryan Singer.
Sure.
That's just from me watching the stuff, because I think he's a fine director, but my guess is that you put a good cast and crew and everybody else working around you together,
yeah,
they can keep you afloat, too.
Oh, absolutely. I believe that. 100%.
So who knows? The premiere is on Ellis Island, appropriately enough, because it's about immigrants and
I like that.
isolation and all this stuff.
Sure.
It is the third highest grossing opening day of all time, behind Star Wars and the Lost World Jurassic Park. It made $296 million worldwide.
All right.
So a big hit for the time.
Absolutely.
And of course, because of that, we are on the path we are today of every other weekend there is some new superhero shit out, regardless of its quality or not.
Very overwhelming.
You even hear from the cast of like, oh, that's kids stuff, it's comic books. And it's like, it wasn't for a while because people were taking it very seriously, and now there's quality over quantity needs to be a thing again when it comes to superheroes.
I do agree.
But the question is, Rachel, is X-Men from 2000 quality over quantity? We will find out if X-Men 2000 has shelf life. Rachel, anything before we hit the break? I'm leaving this entire pause.
Damn it. I think I'm ready to jump right in. This is very exciting to get to watch this. I haven't watched this in years, actually, so this was fun.
When we come back from a word from our fake sponsor, we will walk through X-Men. In these uncertain times, Senator Robert Kelly isn't afraid to ask the tough questions.
Are mutants dangerous?
The Mutant Registration Act, because knowing is the first step to public safety. Senator Kelly firmly believes that we need to keep tabs on those with extraordinary abilities. Picture a world where the government has a comprehensive list of every mutant, their powers, and their whereabouts. It's not about discrimination. It's about safeguarding our communities. The Mutant Registration Act, Senator Kelly's vision for a safer future, where all citizens can rest easy, knowing that steps are being taken to prevent any risks. After all, registration is power.
Well, I don't condone violence, but I do condone people feeling safe in their own homes.
Paid for by the Robert Kelly Senator Campaign and the Friends of Humanity.
And we're back with Volume 4's introductory episode? Whatever. We are back with X-Men from the year 2000. The movie that taught us a man can regenerate his health and have claws in his hands. I was trying to think because Superman was you'll learn a man can fly, and I was like, what is X-Men? You learn a man can look kind of like a cat and throw people really far. Sabretooth?
Sure.
You'll learn that man can control the elements. How come Storm doesn't have to do her, like, wind, behold my wrath, and like?
I kind of wish she did. It would have been so much better than.
I don't think she really does
than
that.
the
in
stupid
the
one-liner.
Well,
I don't know. I
think
think she just likes to be very theatrical and dramatic, so she just kind of does that.
Well, because in Kenya,
I don't think she
they
has
thought
to.
that she was a god. So I think you're right.
I think she's
that was,
just
like, part of her
being-
shtick.
Yeah.
So anyway, here we go. We're about to walk through X-Men from the year 2000, directed by name redacted. It starts with the 20th Century Fox logo and intro. Love that intro. Great intro. The interesting thing about this one, if there is a little interesting thing about it, is the X stay lit up after everything fades away.
Oh, of course.
For X-Men.
Right, yes.
Did you get that,
I
Rachel?
get that, yes.
They do other stuff with the
They
do
always
other stuff
do.
with the X in the other X-Men movies, but they definitely did that little X for X-Men.
It's very subtle, but worth
Yes,
it.
very subtle. And then we get the first thing we hear is Patrick Stewart doing the intro as Charles Xavier. He says mutants. Or, no, I believe it's mutation. Since the dawn of time. I don't remember what he says.
I feel like it's going into something else. Yeah, it's mutation is the key to evolution.
Mutation. It is the key to our evolution. It has enabled us to evolve from a single-celled organism into the dominant species on the planet. This process is slow, normally taking thousands and thousands of years. But every few hundred millennia, evolution leaps forward.
And that's supposed to be your introduction to the concept of X-Men and the mutants.
Right.
Because they are just an evolutionary leap forward. I don't know how it's an evolutionary advantage to have laser beams shoot out of your eyes.
I don't think it is, to be quite honest.
I like this little introduction. You kind of wonder if they thought that was going to be the way to introduce to the fact that, like, Xavier, kind of the mentor of this entire thing. He is the Martin Luther King character. Like, the whole concept between him and Magneto, not necessarily how it was conceived at first go, but eventually became with the Stanley Jack Kirby comics, was you have the MLK and the Malcolm X stuff in there. So, like, you kind of have to start with Patrick Stewart because that's where X-Men starts, right?
Sure. I mean, he could just be teaching a class. This is just his lecture.
This is just his lecture?
Yeah.
Now, if you can all turn to page 212.
Exactly.
Every few hundred millennia, evolution leaps forward. Pyro?
Yeah, Pyro being a jackass in the back.
Shut
still.
up.
He's talking about some, like, Iceman being the definite anomaly in the room, and then everybody laughs.
This little shit. He doesn't even make any sense. Look at him. He's cold. Who cares? What does that matter? Half of your powers aren't even that good.
Because we get a little montage of all their little powers, like the guy who can just like walk on water like Jesus,
Yeah, he should be taking advantage of that, because he could definitely start a cult.
He probably
with
could.
that one. That one's pretty easy to figure out how to make money off of that. It reminds me a bit of the Transformers intro.
Oh, with Optimus Prime talking?
Yeah, it's Optimus Prime being like, Earth, or whatever the hell he says in that.
Is this just, maybe it's just
Was
of
this
the
a
time? Is this
2000s
how we
thing?
all,
Yeah.
is this how they all just start? Like,
Maybe it is, because the first thing that happens in Spider-Man is Toby going, do you want to know who I am? So
I'm Spider-Man.
maybe that is just, maybe there was just narration was just how you start these movies. I don't mind it.
No, maybe that is kind of how what they're thinking of, like, for these, like, even for comic books. It's kind of like, you have like the reader and like the narrator, and then you have the characters.
In comic books, one of the features usually is that it's at the very least first person or third person omnipresent, because you get into the characters' heads.
Right.
So maybe they thought that too, like, because a lot of the times the main character will catch you up on where the hell, like, what's happening in the story.
Oh, yeah, that's very true.
And then a wallpaper screensaver takes us through the opening credits. It is a lot of, it's DNA. It's supposed to be like
DNA.
chromosomes and DNA and stuff.
Yeah, it's very Spark-like, and it looks very computer generated,
And we see the X-Men. It shows us that it is X-Men, and it zooms out of all the DNA into the Cerebro Vault. But it doesn't do the X-Men theme, really, at this point. It just kind of goes like...
Yeah, it's like it's leading to it, but it's not there yet.
Singer initially wanted John Williams to do the score. I call him Jonathan. He turned it down. I kind of want to know what a John Williams X-Men theme would have sounded like.
That could have been interesting.
I don't know if it would have fit the tone of this movie, though. Because, like, John Williams is going to want to do, like, a big, busty march. And that just doesn't fit X-Men. Especially the tone that they're going for here. So that would have been interesting.
It could have worked for Magneto and the Brotherhood. A nice big busty march for him.
He could have came up with a good Magneto theme that would have been Darth Vader-esque,
right.
probably. For
That's kind of
Magneto.
what I'm thinking.
Yeah. That's fair. And John Ottman, who goes on to do the rest of the X-Men scores, that's the theme that you think of when you think of these movies. He's the one that comes up with the da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da.
Yeah.
It's in this a little bit, but Michael Kamen is the one that recorded and does the score for this one. It's a lot more subtle than I would probably want from this kind of movie, but that's just my own opinion. How do you feel about the way that it zooms out of the Cerebro Vault to take you into the story, Rachel? Because it does this in all of the Bryan Singer X-Men movies.
Does it really? Does it do it in every one of them?
Yeah, I can't remember if it does it in Last Stand and First Class, but it definitely does it in all the rest of them.
First Class, I don't think it would, because it technically wasn't made yet.
Oh, because it wasn't exist. Okay,
yeah,
that's
they
fair.
they built it in that one, but
Sure.
But I think it kind of makes sense, because this is kind of where it's all starting to. He's probably like watching people. He's been trying to get into Magneto's head too, so technically, I guess if he was, maybe he's thinking about his past or something like that when it coming to
I thought it's
like a
kind
parallel
of
even.
If it's supposed to be, you're going into like, oh, we're going to tell you another story of the X-Men, and we're going to open the vault and tell you this story.
Oh, like vault-like. Okay. I was thinking
Yeah,
more
so it's
like the
supposed to-
minds of the mutants and like bringing them all into one spot. But
Which
I see what
you
you're
could
saying.
do that. You
Yeah.
could get that. You could get there too. It's kind of the same idea, right? Like if it's Cerebro and you're like you're in the heads of all of the mutants, it's kind of similar too.
Yeah.
We're
We're
gonna
picking
open
one
up
out
the,
and we're gonna talk about
yeah,
them.
we're gonna
Yeah.
open up Cerebro and tell the stories of the mutants or whatever.
Which, I mean, he's kind of being very invasive then, you know? He's like, let me pick one of these out because I can find all of them and I'm going to tell you their entire life story. Without them they're knowing.
We're going to play a little trick.
Pick a dot, any dot.
I'm Charles Xavier, and I'm a little cheeky today. We're going to find a random mutant and tell you his whole life story. This one's actually about Toad, but he's so boring that all the rest of the stuff is more fun.
That's right.
The
Oh my
first scene, of course, is Eric Lencher, who ends up being Magneto, and him and his family are being taken into a concentration camp during World War II.
He's got a very dark backstory. It's kind of sad.
I think if you are trying to do something where you're saying we're taking the verisimilitude with this story and we're trying to take it into a serious direction, I don't know how you could be campy and continue to have Eric's backstory be
sure.
he was a Holocaust survivor.
I mean, obviously this part wouldn't be campy. I'm just saying.
but I'm saying, like, how would you keep that in? Like, you wouldn't even be able to have that if you didn't try to take
I
a serious
suppose
tone.
so. I guess, yeah, they wouldn't even have, like, this as a scene. They would just hint at it. It would just be something that they'd,
Yeah,
like,
it
maybe
could be hinted
talk
at.
about or, like, hint at, but never
Which
actually
would
show
suck.
it.
Which would suck, by the way.
Agreed.
That would absolutely suck.
I agree. This shows way more impact.
You understand Magneto's side,
Yes.
or Magneto's point, because of what happened to him and how he feels because of what happened to his people, or
Exactly.
another grouping of his kind of people. If you only imply that, it's almost like you're just kind of like chicken shitting out.
Yes.
I'm
agree.
warning this for Kevin Feige now. Like, because like I said in previous episodes of Shelf Life, I think Avengers Disassembled. So check our back catalog on that. I think I said it's going to be difficult to do the fact that like Magneto's origin story is the Holocaust when he'd be like 100 damn years old now.
You're right.
But that's where I think that you need to have it that they experimented on him with the Infinity Formula to kind of so that he ages younger, or you just have to say mutants age younger.
Right. They just
Or-
are slower at aging, and so he can actually live longer, typically.
Yeah. So you just have
It
to
would
do
make
something
sense.
like that.
It works, you know?
If they leave out the backstory of Magneto, it's going to be so cheap.
It would be
So-
bullshit, honestly. They can't do that. You can't do that. It's just kind of like, well, now he's just being a jackass now.
Yeah, we
instead
don't
of,
know
like,
why he's... Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, and I guess the problem is everybody knows. It's like seeing Uncle Ben die. But at the same time, you have to approach these movies as though you're in a different... You're reaching a different audience. Like, you
Sure.
can't let people bring in their baggage with it.
Right.
Which
it's
is
still
why I know people
significant. It's still
People get
necessary.
annoyed with Batman, seeing Martha and Thomas Wayne die and seeing Uncle Ben get killed. And I get that, but that's kind of part of the canon. And if you're going to retell the story, you need to at least acknowledge that part of the canon, in my
Right.
opinion.
No, I
So-
agree. I feel like those are significant points that need to actually have happened to those characters for them to do what they do, typically,
Yeah.
like within the
You can-
story realm.
It can be changed up or different or to fit with the times or whatever, but that essence still needs to be there. And I'm only saying all that as a preemptive strike, just in case this MCU X-Men does something stupid. So, they capture a good dark tone right here off the bat. Magneto is taking a look around at the concentration camp as they like kind of get thrown in. No dialogue or anything. There's just sound effects of like the rain hitting the ground and stuff. You can hear
Right.
people like kind of screaming and things like that in the background. The dogs are barking. He sees the numbers that have been burnt into the skin, and he sees the bodies are being buried. I think that's what's happening, right? Bodies are kind of being
I
buried.
have a feeling that's what they're doing because they're shoveling.
Yeah.
Well,
They're
what else are they
shoveling.
going to be shoveling?
I like the score in this scene. As much as I said I didn't like not that they not having a theme ready, but I like the score in this scene. Mm-hmm. The Nazis are ushering some people around, and Magneto is split up from his parents.
Yeah, they're separating them.
His mom is distraught and is screaming for him. He doesn't know quite what to do at first, and then his dad kind of is like, shut up, they're gonna kill us if you like, because they will.
He didn't want them to kill him and the kid, and he didn't want them to kill them just in case they have a chance of getting out. You can feel that in just these like couple minutes, how awful.
And then Magneto, I mean, he's Eric at this point.
Eric
does get upset, and he gets visibly upset because he realizes, like, okay, they're
closing the
separating
gates.
him.
I won't be able to see them again.
He reaches his hand out to try and, reach for them like you would, like, come back, even though, you're not going to, like, reach for them.
Right.
And some of the guards try to haul him back, and as he's doing this, the gates start to bend.
Right. And there's like 4 or 5 guys holding him at this point, and they're getting dragged
toward the gate. Yeah.
Yes.
Almost like they're being pulled by a magnet, if you will. One of the guards just cold cocks him with the butt of
the
rifle.
Rifle. Yes. Just shoves it in his face.
Knocks him out. And the rest of them all kind of look on in shock because the gates are all warped and like bent up because of this. So they don't know what happened. The question, of course, and one that I do like in X-Men First Class is, what would the Nazis do with this kind of development?
Right. Like, this is interesting.
I think it makes sense if the Nazis aren't going to kill him, because now they're going to think we can use this, and they're going to try to figure that out.
I would kind of expect that, yes, because they're all about kind of like the perfect genetics and everything too. So then it would be interesting for them to be like, well, now we kind of want to look at these anomalies with
not only that, but they were all Frankenstein.
And they were Frankensteining, and they were doing crazy experiments in the background.
Terrible shit.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so it would make sense that they would like take this and like
do
play
something
around
with it.
Yes,
yeah. And that's
absolutely.
where I like in First Class, where they like come back to this and kind of show what they did to him with that. There's a comic book or two that also focuses on that. There's one that's really more about the Holocaust. Eric is the main character, but it's supposed to be more about like teaching people about the Holocaust, called Testament, Magneto Testament or something like that. And it's all about him growing up in Poland and then being taken to a concentration camp and stuff. But it's way more subtle. Like there's a couple of times when he probably used his powers and didn't realize it.
Okay.
But it's still good. It's a good read. Clearly, there's like some sort of power here that's allowing him to move the bars and move the gates and stuff.
Right, yes.
So the two themes that you have in this movie are persecution, which is exhibited by Magneto, and isolation. Because you're thinking a minority group, or you're thinking someone that's getting picked on, even for just being different or just being geeky or nerdy or whatever.
Just weird
which is the
in
whole,
general, right?
Yeah, which is the whole essence of X-Men. That's why people can relate. Everybody feels in some way, shape, or form they're some sort of outsider. So like there's some way that X-Men kind of relates to them. Mm-hmm. So we go from the persecution with Magneto to the isolation with Rogue.
I don't know if they do this throughout, and I'm going to have to like recheck to see, but like the Magneto scene is very blue. It has like that, what is
like
the
a
word
filter,
I want? That
color
filter on
filter.
it. And then once we go to like this, like now it's to the future and we go to a new place, it's got more of like a yellow tone to it, a little bit.
Well, it's supposed to be, it looks warmer.
Yes.
I think that's definitely on purpose, at least between this and that last scene and this scene, because you're supposed to feel like this is like a very safe suburban like home in the South with Rogue, right?
Right.
So we are in Mississippi in the not too distant future, somewhere in time and space. Magneto and his mutant pals are starting a
thing against the human race.
Yeah, I was gonna say are starting a
war.
Race war, war against the human race.
There we go.
Yeah, there we go. We got it. I thought that was kind of dumb to put in the not too distant future, because like, what the hell does that mean?
I guess because they don't want to give you a year. So they're
Yes,
like,
that's fine.
here's the Holocaust.
Yeah, we
and
know
then here's
in
like
your-
a year.
That's right. In your world, there aren't mutants, so this is the not too distant future.
Sure.
Down in Deep 13, Dr. Forrester, TV's Frank.
Oh, no.
Okay. Rogue is telling her girlfriend.
Say that again. Rogue's mom is playing the piano downstairs, and then we shoot up to Rogue talking about Niagara Falls and New York City.
Niagara Falls.
And then slowly she turns
That's so strange.
and
That's
talks
very
to her
obscure.
boyfriend.
She's talking about going on a trip. I think it's like supposed to be a trip after they graduate from high school. She wants to go on kind of like a road trip thing.
Yes.
And she wants to go through Niagara Falls up through the the Canadian Rockies.
Yes,
Like
all the way
up
to
through
Alaska.
Mm-hmm.
And she wants to do this before college.
Yes. And she talks about that, and, they're just kind of little high school, little puppy love sweetheart type thing.
Oh, yeah.
And
very Southern.
well, Rogue is very Southern.
Oh, no, she
Rachel,
is. It works, yes.
Describe your interpretation of the Rogue character.
Oh, she
And
says sugar, and she's
does that
just
go
like
along?
very Southern.
Does that go along with what you see from this Rogue?
I could see this Rogue turning into that Rogue eventually.
Okay.
And like in her 20s, I could see her being a bit more, roguish. The roguish from the cartoon that I know.
Yeah. I think that's
she gains
fair,
that confidence.
Anna Paquin playing Rogue. She's a teenager who hasn't had the powers yet, so and you can tell she's a little more timid even before she realizes that she has the powers or whatever.
Right.
They very much, in my opinion, and I'll probably say it multiple times, they very much kind of smush together Rogue, Jubilee, and Kitty.
Yes.
In this Rogue.
It does kind of feel that way. But I mean, I guess that's just like that coming of age, like woman type thing anyways, too, for each one of them. They kind of have a similar way of becoming something else. So
But if one of the themes you're trying to talk about is like isolation of being different or like having a talent or a power or whatever and feeling isolated because of that, Rogue is the character to do that with.
100%. Absolutely. Poor girl.
So,
this poor girl. It's awful.
after she tells him this, they both are sitting on the bed and they eventually kiss. He's got some Elvis sideburns, this guy. This is a southern
Kind of does.
haircut.
Yeah.
Like, these are some big-ass sideburns
Very
on this
curly and
guy.
poofy, at the top.
They kiss, and her power manifests because, as we will
I wonder
learn...
if it manifests a little before this, but because this is, like, her first touch, this is where, like...
Also possible.
Yeah.
So, but Jean
it's
Grey
all
even says
hormones,
it,
right?
yeah, Jean Grey says it later, and I think this is, for the most part, how it always is in X-Men universe, is that they manifest around puberty, and usually it's if you're stressed out.
Sure.
That's when it'll come out.
Yeah.
Because your, like, body can't control it or whatever.
Right.
So, like, if it's her first kiss and she's, like, emotional or
Nervous
stressed
and-
out.
right.
Yeah, so now it's going to, like, manifest.
Exactly. All of those, like, heightened emotions.
Right, exactly. And this sends Cody into a coma.
Oh, it's so awful because he's like having a seizure now on her bed.
Yeah,
and she doesn't
yeah.
know what to do.
It's pretty heavy. So they call him David. It's Cody in the comics and in the cartoon and everything. I don't know where they came with David. His name is Cody. Her parents come up and she's scared. She's freaking out. The dad is like, "What happened here?" And like, because yeah, you're right. He's like seizing out.
Yes,
The
and
mom
she like already knows it's something she did. And my assumption is
She
because
thinks it's
she
something
can
that she
feel
did.
him in her.
Oh yeah.
Because all of a sudden
That's-
she can like maybe
that's a good
feel
point.
him in
Okay.
her head, and she's like, "Wait, what's happening? I did
But-
something."
Like you
I
said though,
absorbed
as a teenage girl, you would think that anyway.
Probably.
Too, probably,
Absolutely.
that you did
she'd
something,
be like,
even
"Oh
if
my
you
god, it's
didn't."
my fault because we just kissed and
Yeah.
now he's having a seizure." Like
Yeah.
I had to have done something.
And the dad is asking somebody to call an ambulance, and the mom wants her to calm down, and she does the "Get the fuck away from me!" type of scream.
Yeah, like don't touch me.
Which I enjoy that.
Oh yeah, she does a very good job of just like bursting that out too.
Yeah. And then before we even leave the scene, the noise cuts out. So, like, you just see her, like, screaming, but there's no noise, because it ends up going to the next scene in DC. It reminded me a lot of when you read a comic book, and it'll be the last panel.
Oh, yeah.
And it does the box of somebody talking, and then it finishes it off in the next panel, and, like, you're actually in the new scene. They do that a lot
like
in
that
Marvel
transition.
comics.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It reminded me of that. I was actually kind of surprised to see something comic book-like kind of portrayed that way.
Yeah.
This scene very effective with Rogue getting her powers.
Absolutely. Because it goes right into exactly what Jean's, like, talking about and everything, too.
So we cut to Washington, D.C. Jean Grey is talking in front of Congress. Beast was in some of these drafts.
Which would make sense, but that might be too extreme at this point.
Yeah, I think you have to ease people into Beast, or it would have to be a Hank McCoy before he's blue.
Exactly.
That's the way you could do it.
Yeah.
For sure. Because this should be Beast.
It should be Beast. It makes sense. It makes more sense to be Beast, but I feel like it can work with Jean Grey, though, too.
And I think they just kind of put some of that stuff in those screenplays where it was, or scripts where it was Beast, into Jean Grey. Because she does this speech, which feels very Beast.
Right,
and
Hank
then
McCoy.
she's also doing a doctor stuff. She's also like
a
that,
scientist.
That feels that feels like that should be Beast too.
Sure. I don't mind that she also does like the science-y doctor stuff though, as well. I feel like they could work in tandem.
No, well, if it works for Beast, it can work for Jean Grey just as well. I'm just saying, like, as far as like.
But yes, no, I agree.
We're thinking
the Hank
about like how the
McCoy
comics
Beast
are.
character.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Hank McCoy would be doing that.
Absolutely.
Jean Grey is explaining mutations, and this is where, like I said, she says they're triggered by heightened stress during puberty. Senator Kelly interrupts and says, "That's very nice, Miss Grey."
Fails to address
the
bottom line.
It's something that I've always enjoyed, which is, are mutants dangerous?
These mutations manifest at puberty and are often triggered by periods of heightened emotional stress.
Thank you, Miss Gray. It was quite educational. However, it fails to address the issue that is the focus of this hearing. 3 words. Are mutants dangerous?
Yep.
This becomes part of the debate, right? Because he says, are mutants dangerous? Jean says, well, the wrong person behind the wheel of a car can be dangerous. And he goes, well, we do license people to drive. And she says, but not to live. So this is where I think gets kind of complicated, Rachel.
It does.
They're bringing up some ethics here. Mm-hmm. Because you can understand a human being afraid of these mutants because some of them have very dangerous powers.
They have some scary, like, frickin' Scott.
Yeah, Scott.
You know, Cyberman? No, what's his name? Cyclops.
Cyclops. Cyberman?
That's Doctor Who.
Folks at home.
That's Doctor Who. Cyclops with his eyes. Like, that's horrifying.
He could take everybody out with his eyes.
Right.
And
with one blink of his eye.
Despite how much of a bigot Senator Kelly is, you understand that there's some valid thought here, not registration.
No, I think they go to an extreme. There is like some caution and some like thoughts and curiosities about it, but he goes to an extreme.
There needs to be something in place to help these people learn how to control their powers or something like that. But again, like, would you trust the government to put that together without using? Like, that's why it's a good. It's why it's a good ethical question, right? You know, like registration is the extreme, and that's where, obviously, like, think about it now. Like, you can picture politicians saying that about certain people now,
right?
And you can see where that would be used incorrectly or used for evil, and that's where Magneto sees it, where like a registration for you being Jewish or being gay or being
anything,
a liberal or a communist or whatever it was in the Nazi Germany, it was the same way. So that's where you can see that would be not a way to do that. But you can understand when he says, like, well, we license people to drive, and that comes back in the comics all the time too, with like, how do you ensure that people with powers are able to control those powers?
Yeah. It's just one of those things where it's like, not everybody drives, but you have to learn to drive in order to do so. But if you're born with a mutation, it's not the same thing. It's just not the same thing. It's just something that's already part of you.
That's why it's a bad analogy.
Right.
And that's why Jean says, well, we don't register people to live.
Yeah.
They're answering the wrong question, which a politician like this bigoted politician is going to do, which is there is a problem, but instead of trying to find and work on a solution to it, they just try to find the easiest hateful way out of it to like use their own power kind of thing. It backs up and we see Charles in the wheelchair. He's in silhouette. This futuristic Senate chambers is interesting. Like, this is not what the Senate floor or anything looks like. So I'm like, where are they? Like, or even a chamber where, like, they do, like, a hearing. It's like, what the hell is this?
I mean,
like,
it kind of has that same feel, though, doesn't it? Or no?
It looks like that, like of the spiral stairs and the chairs and everything. It does have that look to it. It just does. It does look like a remodeled Senate chambers, though, compared to what the real U.S. Senate chambers looks like.
Instead of, like, old and...
instead of old and shitty.
Yeah.
Senator Kelly brings out a list of known mutants.
Mm-hmm.
He lists them off. Kitty Pryde is an example of one of them because it's a girl that can walk through walls. Jean Grey says that, like, well, the people that have come forward and said that they're mutants, the ones that have done that have been, like, persecuted. Right. Which, again, it's such a good analogy because, like, I mean, to today's day and age, you could say it's, you know, gay people or trans people or who, it doesn't even matter. You can pick your spot.
Yes.
Somebody that comes out as anything.
Even with any type of race or cultural background
or opinion or anything.
Opinions. Yeah. Yes, absolutely.
So you don't even have to be a member of like a minority sect to understand where they're coming from here. He rallies up his MAGA crowd by saying that it just is. That's what it is. And I'm sorry, it is. He thinks that the American people should get to know if they want their children being taught by mutants and going to school with mutants and all of this.
Right.
Pretty bigoted stuff.
It's a
half
lot.
The crowd kind of applauds it, applauds the registration of mutants, and you get another camera shot on Charles, who's upset that people around him are applauding the speech.
Of course.
Kelly finishes it off by going like, we need to know who they are, and we need to know what they can do. And this is where like some people are giving like a standing ovation and stuff, and like clearly like this is a contentious issue in this world.
Yes, absolutely. It does almost look like the majority is actually clapping too, which is kind of creepy.
Yeah, I guess you'd have to think about that because like, is it the majority of the Senate
room at least,
or is it just are there a lot of like anti-mutant people in the gallery or something?
Sure, that could be it. Yeah.
Or is it just that most humans don't like mutants, which I think is just true. Like I think in the world of the X-Men, most of the humans are afraid of the mutants and therefore hate them.
Right, which is I think that's a big thing that they talk about is the reason for the hate is the fear.
Right.
You hate something because you fear something.
What you don't understand. Yes. I believe that is the usual token line from X-Men.
I was going to say that's the one.
And, of course, the X-Men's tagline has always been protecting a world that fears and hates them.
Which is sad. It's kind of sad.
That's
just the
what
truth.
They think. Yeah. A man in silhouette looking quite dapper catches Charles' eye.
Absolutely.
Oh, Magneto? Cerebro. For anyone that's ever listened to the riff tracks of this movie, like that's all they do the entire time is just go Magneto.
Cerebro.
So Charles leaves it and he stops Eric from exiting, and we get our first scene between Magneto and Charles Xavier. Eric is in the shadows this whole time. Charles is out in the light. We get the back and forth between them. Some great dialogue in this scene.
Absolutely.
And Charles asks Eric what he's doing there, and Eric goes, "Why do you ask questions to which you already know the answers?"
Yes.
And Charles is trying to convince him that, like, well, it's not like that. Like, that was a long time ago. All of the Nazis were a long time ago.
Like
mankind
saying,
has
like,
evolved.
Don't give up. And Eric's like, but I've heard all of these things before. I've heard it all before. And it just keeps repeating itself.
And Charles says that mankind has evolved since then. And Magneto, with this great retort, just goes, "Yes, into us." Just the way that he says it,
it's great.
So good.
No, it's so good.
He knows that Charles is in his head, or trying to like read his mind. He says, "What are you sneaking around in there, Charles?" And he turns around, and now we get the other little, like, film geeky type of thing here, or film language. Film language, I think, is the way to say that, where the one half of Magneto's face is in the shadow, and on the other side, the opposite side is in the shadows with Charles.
Right.
So you're getting the two sides of the faces here of the mutants.
Exactly.
Charles says that he's looking for hope. And another great line by Ian McKellen here, because he goes, "I will bring you hope, old friend, but don't get in my way. We are the future, Charles, not them. They no longer matter."
I'm looking for hope.
I will bring you hope, old friend. And I ask only one thing in return. Don't get in my way. We are the future, Charles, not them. They no longer matter.
I love. There are so many in these movies.
They're very
of
good
people
together.
Yelling things.
Yes.
Because I think of, "There are no answers for you that way, Wolverine," in the second one. But this one's pretty good too. Of, "We are the future, Charles, not them."
I love that that's like a thing they do, is just have somebody yelling into the distance.
Which, of course, is one of my favorite things to do on Shelf Life, so I'm glad that I get to do that. What an intro for these two characters.
Oh, yeah.
You understand them perfectly in
Yep.
this scene, and Ian McKellen and Patrick Stewart are great at this.
And you kind of, the fun thing is they chose a really good kid to play him, because like you can see him in his face. You know, you can see the child that like he was in.
Oh, you think so? I didn't notice.
I thought they looked kind of similar. Like I feel like you could kind of see it in the face shape and everything. So I feel like the way he turned around, you can kind of like, that was like the reveal. Like, can you see him? Like, can you see the child and like this old man?
Oh, okay. I'll give you that. We go to Alberta. I'm already losing my voice now because I did too many shouting in the first 5 minutes. We go to Alberta, where the dude who plays Beast in the cartoon is dropping Rogue off. Rogue is hitchhiking her way to Alaska, I think. She's become a runaway, I think, is what happened here.
She's become rogue.
Right?
Huh?
She's become rogue. That's correct.
She's gone rogue.
And he drops her off in this little crap town, which is nothing but a bar and a barn, it looks like. And it might be a bar in a barn.
It could be both.
Can't really tell. Where there's cage fights going on.
Yes, there's also, Fight Club happening in the back.
I thought this was a nice little precursor to, like, before people really knew what UFC was. Like, they're just doing some cage fighting.
Kind of makes
in
sense.
the back of this bar.
Yeah.
I like the idea of Wolverine being a cage fighter.
No,
Like,
it
that's a
makes
good way
sense
for
to
him
me.
to make money.
Yeah, he's just making
You
money,
know?
easy money for him right there.
Mm-hmm.
It
seemed like
might
a
hurt
good
for a
time.
second, but he's fine.
Yeah. Do you think that this would be a nice bar to visit, Rachel? Like, as someone that enjoys a good dive bar, I don't know if this would be the best bar. Here's why. There's nothing but peanuts. There maybe pretzels.
Oh, the floor
There's
is
no
just constantly
food at this bar,
crunchy.
which is fine by me. But I'm thinking, like...
No, there's probably not real food. It's just going to be like the stuff that kind of like soaks up the alcohol that you're sitting there drinking.
Right. You think they make a good poutine in this bar?
Oh, I bet they make a poutine because it is Canada.
Yeah.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A Wolverine poutine.
Oh, absolutely.
Now, would it have been better if later on, when Wolverine asks for a beer, if he's like, "I'll take a beer and a poutine, please." It was just
And he goes, "The
super
poutine's on the
Canadian.
house," and he just gives it to him. Just bring it even
yeah.
more
So
in.
this is a dirty bar.
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
We get the introduction of Wolverine. He's beating up Canadian rednecks with the help of this carnival barker who's in charge of the cage fights.
Right.
And he is saying that, who else will try to stop this man? And you don't see the front of Hugh Jackman. You just see his back. It's all bruised. So, like, you can tell
you see
he's
him,
been,
like, leaning on stuff. And
yeah.
so he's been fighting for a little while.
Taking fights, yeah.
It's interesting that Rogue just goes immediately to this area of the bar. Why would you go to the fight section immediately? I feel like I would like just go try to hide in a corner.
Here's why. Here's why. Now, one, she's dressed like Aragorn in the Fellowship.
Oh,
of
she
the Ring.
truly is. So she could just sit in the corner of the bar.
So
and,
she
like,
literally
pretend to
could
be
sit in the
Aragorn.
corner. Aragorn's in one corner and she's in another.
The hobbits walk in.
Yeah, I could not think of another way to get that to.
Wolverine goes to the wrong corner. He's like, "Hey, kid," and he's like, "Sorry, wrong side."
Sorry, wrong side. Anyway, here's what I was thinking is you go into this bar and you're a runaway. You're on your own. You're clearly like frightened this entire time. Yes, if you're rogue and you're like trying to isolate yourself from people because you're like afraid of being able to touch someone, you would probably just go sit in the corner. But I also think that you hear a ruckus.
Oh yeah, you kind of want to go
You're
check
gonna
it
go
out.
see
What are these
what
people
it is.
watching? Sure.
Yeah. So
guess
I
that
think
makes
that's
sense.
probably it. This biker kind of looking guy comes in and says that he'll fight Wolverine. And the Carnival Bar, I've always remembered the Carnival Bar going, "Our savior," to kind of like taunt this guy.
Right.
It's very much a similar thing of like the origin story of Spider-Man, trying to wrestle.
Right.
It's
A similar
suspiciously
thing.
similar.
Yeah.
But remember that all of these things were written by like the same 5 people or whatever. I mean, Wolverine's backstory is not.
No,
I
this
don't know if
isn't
he
his
did this in the
backstory. I
comics
think
or
he's
not.
just getting some money. I think this
Yeah,
is just a good
yeah.
way to introduce him as like the strong guy he is.
He comes by once a month to do this cage fighting at this shitty little
Right.
Alberta bar. There's a callback to later on in the movie here that's set up here because the Carnival Barker says, "Whatever you do, don't hit him in the balls."
Yep.
And he goes, "But you said anything goes." And he's like, "Anything goes, but he'll take it personal." This guy beats up Logan for a few minutes. I think Wolverine breaks his hand because the guy goes to like punch and Logan just hangs his hand
yeah,
out
the
like
way
limp.
like the one hand punches into the other, there's no way he didn't break some of that, like
Yeah.
his fingers or something.
And then he punches him and then he headbutts him and that knocks him out. I didn't really like this, but there's like a metal sound each time.
Like a clink.
Yeah, there's
like a
different,
clink.
like a cling. Yeah, every time there, whenever he hits somebody. He's got the hair.
Oh, he's
He's
got
got
the
the cigar.
hair.
What else can you ask for? This hair is just awful.
It's so silly. It's
so silly. Like I couldn't remember because I think that they kind of flatten it out eventually.
They tone it down a smidge. But this
But,
is like
like,
cartoon. Here's
But
my
this is
hairdo.
what you'd want. Like
Oh,
if you're
absolutely.
some excuse me, but I believe that Wolverine does not have the appropriate hair for this. Like if you're gonna appease that guy, there it fucking is, man.
Yep, there
that
it
is
is.
the Wolverine's haircut. Rachel, please explain Wolverine's haircut. We've done Old Man Logan, so we don't have to explain Wolverine, but we can explain Wolverine's haircut.
That's kind
in
of
this
true.
movie.
So it's picture parted down the middle, all right? Parted down the middle. But then it poofs on either side. Not in like space bun format, but like full on like 2 ridges on his head. Because it kind of like comes up like, I guess it's supposed to be like what, ears? Like the ears of the Wolverine or something? Is that what
I
it
think
is?
So. Like a wolf ear. Wolverine
Yeah, like
ears,
Wolverine, like pointy ears, but it doesn't go like that far up. But it's still a big bump on either end, and then he's got the little
It's
curly in the
utterly
front
ridiculous.
because
Yes.
always have to have that little curly in the front.
Right, because you're a superhero, so you need that.
That's right. So that's what he is, and then he's got the full-on mutton chops,
Full on mutton
like
chops.
full-on mutton chops down to the lips.
Yeah.
That's Wolverine hair right there.
Mm-hmm. But he's smoking the cigar. He's got the
his
Wolverine
big old
hair.
cigar,
He's beat
leather
up.
jacket.
It looks like Wolverine, except for the fact that he's a foot taller than Wolverine is supposed to be.
Yeah, I know. Because you're trying to say that he's like kind of like a short, stout, long arms, type of
Yeah.
guy in
Yeah.
the comic. I don't know if it really matters that much.
But
But I guess I'm just used to
Hugh.
Hugh Jackman now. He's
You're
just like
used
my
to Hugh
Wolverine.
Jackman because
Yeah.
he's so good as Wolverine.
Right.
But if you think about the comics, it works a little bit because he's this like little angry, gruff guy.
Yeah, he kind of
And-
looks
and that-
more like an angry
And I think part of it too is like
or-
a Wolverine is supposed to be like it's a small animal, so it's
Yes.
and it's vicious as shit. So I think that's also
Absolutely.
supposed to be part of it too.
I guess that makes sense, yeah.
It fits the personality of James Howlett to be small, to have that to be small and vicious. Mm-hmm. But Hugh Jackman is fantastic as Wolverine, and or has just owned the role so
Yeah.
much. Because you wouldn't have thought that they'd cast Hugh Jackman in this role. He is a singer and like a Broadway guy by
Yes.
trade, and it just doesn't seem like it should work.
But it does.
But it does. He's been doing it for a couple of decades. I don't know. Rogue is at the bar after the show. She's staring at the tip jar. I never got this until this last viewing, which I haven't watched
Really?
this in
There's
several
no
years.
way.
I didn't realize that the bartender thought she's gonna steal the tips, and that's why he moves the tip jar. I thought he was just being a dick because she only got water, so she's not giving a tip.
Oh, that's what you always thought?
Yeah.
Oh, because she's kind of like spaced out staring at the tip jar. And one, it says tipping is not a city in China, is what it says.
Right. A very 2000s. You're not putting that on a tip jar.
No,
there.
you're not. But anyways, so that is what she's staring at, and it could be either assumed that she's just one spacing out because she doesn't know what the hell she's supposed to do, so she's trying to think of what to do next, or two, she's going to steal this tip jar, and that's going to be the money she has because she probably doesn't either have any or not very much.
Right.
So the guy does
she's
move the
running
jar
out of-
away.
Yeah. There's a news report on about Ellis Island being a place to hold a UN World Summit.
Right.
On what didn't look like a very 2000s TV. It almost looked like a flat screen TV.
It
the way
looks
that
like
they
a
had this
flat
position,
screen.
doesn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. Which I didn't know if
It's
that's supposed to be
wide
part
and
of like
flat.
their futuristic look or something.
Oh,
but
maybe.
the largest gathering of world leaders is what this is going to be, and they're going to talk about everything, including mutants, at this summit. Rogue keeps glancing at Logan.
And
I think
Logan
'cause she's,
glanced
like,
at
afraid
her
of him.
when the mutants thing was talked about too.
Well, because they both looked up at the screen when the mutants thing was talked about, and then I
Right.
think it's a little bit of both of them being like, "Does anybody know?" The guy Logan beat up wants money for getting beat up.
Well, because I think because I don't know. I think he's just mad.
That's what
Is
he
just
says.
salty? Like,
Yeah, of course he's just salty, but like, what are you talking about? Like, what do you mean? You want money for getting beat up? I think it's like this guy is saying that he says no man should take a beating like that without a mark to show for it.
right.
So he thinks that like he deserves some money for
Well,
taking the beating. It's like,
I
dude,
think-
you signed up for that.
I actually think he's pretty much saying, because then his next line is, "I know what you are." I think he's half
Sure.
blackmailing him too. Like,
Well, that is yes,
like that's
yes.
cheating. You cheated. There's no way you could have done this without being a mutant. So you owe
Okay,
me money
you are
because
a
I'm a
cheater, sir.
I'll tell everybody that you're a mutant. You know. So I think that might be more so part of it. Otherwise, he's just an ass who's like, "Give me your money because
No.
you beat me."
No, I
Which I also
see
think
your
is
point
true.
there. Yeah, a little column A, a little column B.
Right.
Logan, when he does say the "I know what you are," he says, "Look, you lost your money. You keep this up, you'll lose something else," which is perfect for Wolverine.
Yes.
And then the guy goes to shiv Logan in the middle of this bar.
Right? Yeah, he's just a scummy kind of guy. That's all he is. So Rogue sees this about to happen and yells, "Look
Yeah.
out."
Look out! Yeah.
I do not think Wolverine needed to reveal his swords, his own knives.
No, I think that it's instinctual. I think it was an instinct
Oh, it was just on instinct. Okay, fair.
because it was so quick that he
It just came out.
came out. Really, now you could say only the two came out. So
But then the third one's
maybe-
now intimidation.
Yeah, now the third one is him intimidating him. It could also be a thing of like he realized something was going to happen and he said, "Fuck it, I'm gonna."
That could be it too. And then
Yeah.
he's just like, let's compare knives. So then he wanted to show him his,
That's not a knife.
this is a knife.
Is a knife. And he's Australian.
It's
so
perfect.
It fits. So he popped the claws out. I like the shot of the two claws being out and then the third one slowly
Yes.
comes out and like
Right.
he doesn't pull it out fully because he only wants it to touch the guy's neck.
Yes.
So you can tell that Logan is in complete control of
Oh, absolutely.
his claws and his abilities.
Right.
the bartender aims a shotgun at Logan's head and calls him a freak.
Yeah.
And
Get out
then
of
Logan,
my bar, freak.
Get out of my bar, freak. And which I've always remembered too. I can picture
okay,
us
so
on the road trip watching this.
I know. So
Rogan. That's Logan and Rogue's shipping name, Rogan.
Rogan.
So the guy's got the shotgun pointed at Logan's head. Logan, with the other claws, slices the shotgun in half. And I was watching stuff about different things that are brought back in the future and stuff, and I'll probably say this in our Logan episode in 2039 or whenever we recorded that shotgun has to be sliced at the right spot so that it doesn't off.
Sure, yeah.
And if you watch Logan, he does the same thing in the beginning of Logan, but because he's sloppy and old, he goes to do it and he cuts it in the wrong spot and it blows the guy's hand off.
Oh. That's a nice callback. I like that. That's actually kind of fun.
Well, that movie's directed by
very
pretty
specific.
good directors.
Very nice. Yeah. Very nice.
Rogan.
It's just canon now. It's Rogan. We have Logan and Rogue going on a trip together. Rogan.
Mm-hmm. Logan composes himself and he walks out of the bar. Rogue runs out after him.
Yes.
And we see how Logan lives. He has a beat up truck with like a trailer on it and a hitch. Yeah. Mm-hmm. He's got a motorcycle in the hitch, which begs the question. Well, I guess if like he camps out in some places, then uses the motorcycle to like, okay.
Yeah.
And he examines his hands as he starts the car and hits the road. Because, as we learned, it hurts every time. Which I liked that. I don't know if that's ever mentioned in the comics or not. I'm sure it is at some point. But, because I have not read every fucking comic book in the world. But Rachel can attest to the fact that I was looking at my Marvel Unlimited that told me I read 107 books in a year or whatever it was.
Right, yes.
That's a lot, but it's not
a good
like...
amount. It's a good amount.
But I like the idea that every time he pops the claws, it hurts.
Yes.
Because it would.
You get that
metal
you
slicing
feel
your hand.
Right.
Yeah.
Considering we know more of Logan's backstory, too, do you think that the bone itself hurt as much? Or do you think that actually hurt less? And then once it became adamantium?
Because there seems to be a way that his hands kind of separate a little bit to let the bone out. So I think the adamantium makes it hurt even
like
more. I bet the bone did hurt. But yeah, because it's
makes
too
sense.
big and stuff. Yeah, before X-Men Origins or Wolverine Origins, the comic book, which established the bone claws, which makes sense. It was more so canon that the adamantium there was like too much or something, and it developed the claws. Oh. And the claws are a result of the adamantium. Like it's like residual, and it made claws residually out of that. I think the bone claws makes more sense.
I feel like the bone claws makes more sense.
Yeah.
Where it's just like that was something that was just already in his hands. And then... Yeah. Right. It had something to adhere to. I like that better. Anyways.
He eventually thinks he hears something and examines the hitch and finds Rogue in the back.
He like hears her, and I'm assuming he also smells her at that point. He's like, wait a minute.
Yeah, I guess if you're suspicious and you do the smell of Logan, then you'd be able to piece that together. She thought that maybe he'd help her out. And he's like, nope. Tosses her bag out, tosses her out.
Get out of my trailer.
And she's like, well, where do you want me to go? And he's like, I don't know. And she goes, you don't know or you don't care? And he goes, pick one. Which is another one that I was like so waiting for that too. And then she says, I saved your life. And he goes, no, you didn't. Which is true because he would have just survived.
Exactly.
And he drives off, but then stops and lets her join.
Yeah, because he has he's a softie.
He's got his own honor. He's a softie. He's definitely like a softie for... I'm trying to think of how to say this to make him sound creepy.
Well, kids and damsels type of thing. You know? He can't look at like somebody that's like weak. He looks at like kids and like that. Like he sees them as like weaker, and he wants to be able to make sure that they're protected.
Them.
Yeah, that's a good thing. It's not a creepy thing.
No, it's not a creepy thing. But I was trying to figure out how to say it without it sounding like he was creepy, and you did a good job of that. Because he has honor about that. Like something that he thinks seems weaker, he wants to help. Mm-hmm. For sure. If you watch the 90s cartoon, Jubilee is kind of this role. The comics, it's Kitty is really this role. gets her some jerky because she says that she's hungry and she's got some jerky.
I always questioned what that was because I'm like, what is that she
As a kid, I had no idea what it was.
Because the way she ate it, I was like, is it chocolate?
Yeah, I always thought it was like little,
but
like,
it was like the way
like chocolate
she
cookies.
eats it. I thought it was maybe like a Hershey bar or something, but I was like, is it like chewy and gooey? Like, what is this?
Yes,
like
it
the
looks
way
like she's like chewing like gooey, like a cookie or something, or a candy bar.
So it's like, it has to be jerky, right? Because it's just like the way she eats it. But she just like gnaws on it, like it's like pouring so much in her mouth. I was just like, okay, that's food.
Rachel, okay, all right, it's food. It's food, girl. Like Rachel's driving road cross
like
country.
Space food, you know?
All right, you calm down there. It's just food. It's supposed to be that she hasn't eaten.
Oh yeah,
in a
she's
while.
like starving, right?
She tries to introduce herself to him. We get a close up because she says I'm Rogue, and we get a close up of Wolverine's dog tag. And she tries to ask him if that means that he was in the army, and he puts the dog tag away because he doesn't like talking about himself.
No,
and then insults his living space, which
I think one, teenager, two.
All right, that's fair.
It was probably just like a oh Jesus, like I think the line she says though,
she should have come up with something
rude.
Better.
It
is because
so
I get doing
rude.
the oh. Like, I get accidentally being like, oh, as a teenager.
Yes.
But yes, to then be like, well, suddenly my life doesn't look so bad.
What the heck? Oh my god. Judgmental. Rude.
Well, Logan's like, if you prefer the road. And
right.
she's like, no, it looks great. It's cozy. So they drive around along for a while. He tells her to put her hands on the heater, and she won't let him touch her.
Like he was gonna pull her hands to the heater, like it's over here.
Folks,
that
at
is
home,
a little weird. Don't do that, anyways. Yeah.
Right. I mean, he didn't mean he was just gonna be like it's okay to put your hand on the heater, do
put
a
it over
little,
here
thing.
Yeah.
But yes, for those of you that are hitchhiking while listening to Shelf Life, don't let the driver touch you.
You shouldn't be hitchhiking.
No, don't
That's
hitchhike.
dangerous.
It's bad. And for the folks at home that are listening to us on the road, don't pick up hitchhikers.
Yeah, I don't think you should. I really don't think you should. It just seems so dangerous either way.
She explains to him that people that touch her get hurt, something make contact with her skin. They tell each other their real names. He says, well, what kind of a name is Rogue? And she goes, what kind of a name is Wolverine?
Yeah.
And he says, my name is Logan. And she says, Marie.
Right.
The screen, the cast screen tests thing with these two when they were doing, this was the scene that they did the screen test with.
Oh, sure.
To kind of see, do these two have chemistry? Will it work? And framing it up and making sure the story elements work and stuff like that. They did this, and in that screen test, she says, what kind of a name is Logan? So, he must have already said his name was Logan. And, that just doesn't work. I'm glad that they changed it, because it's what the fuck's he going to say?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's all he knows, is that his name is Logan.
So weird.
He can't be like, well, my real name
is Logan?
My real name's James Howlett, but I don't know that right now.
Right.
I'm actually Australian. What? So, yeah, I like that they have, what
No, I
what's
think
your
that's way
real
better.
name?
Right.
Yeah. Where do you think Rogue came up with Rogue in this universe?
I still think
I know
it's
where she
what
comes up with it in the canonical 616 universe, because Mystique and her little gang, but how does she come up with Rogue?
I still think it's what I was saying. She's left. She's gone, running away. She's gone rogue. So she's just kind of taking on that whole nomenclature. I am rogue. I've gone rogue. I am rogue. Yeah.
Okay. As they go along, Rogue tells him to put a seatbelt on. And as he manages on taking the advice, I think he was going to say from some kid, a tree falls on the car and it launches Logan through the windshield and he slides to a stop.
Yes. So yes, always have your seatbelt on.
Yes, unless you have mutant powers that regenerate your health. Because
even
technically,
then?
Well, actually, but that it was better for Logan because Rogue's seatbelt gets her stuck in the car. So
True,
like, if,
but he
well,
would
he would have been able to
just
slash it with his claws.
Yeah.
You're right. And so yeah, he should have had his seatbelt on. Folks at home, make sure you have your seatbelts on wherever you're at. Even if you're listening to this with outside of a vehicle, make sure your seatbelt's on.
That's right. I'm wearing mine right now.
Is that your shelf life lesson for the day?
Shelf life lessons. Wear your seatbelt.
A fire starts in the back, and Rogue is shocked when Logan gets up, like Mike Myers. Like
Yeah.
he very much Mike Myers is.
He
up
gets
in
up.
This scene.
It looks like his ankle is like dislocated and broken the way he stumbles.
Oh, I didn't even notice that. Okay.
Yeah, it kind of looks that way, and it, like the way he has to like kind of like hold himself, it's like he's putting himself back together a little bit, like making sure everything's connected.
Yeah, yeah, he definitely has to do that quite a bit. He always does the neck crack and stuff like that.
And the gash on his
and then
head.
You see the gash on his head comes back together, and Rogue is stuck, but she sees like him reforming himself.
So it's a little like a shock when you're watching it.
Yeah, which you would be. Like, it doesn't, like, even though you know you have some powers, like, you've already seen this man have claws. Like, you think that is his power.
Right.
And now he's regenerating himself.
That's right.
But yes, Mike Myers versus Wolverine. Who wins that battle, Rachel?
Wolverine.
Yeah, I guess that's right.
Come on.
Was trying to go there, but, you know, I guess that is as far as you can go. Logan could use a Dr. Loomis chasing him around, which I guess is what Colonel Stryker is in the second movie.
Yeah, that's true.
There are no answers for you that way, Michael. Now there's a Mad TV sketch.
I'm having flashbacks now.
Where Dr. Loomis puts together an X-Men version of the slashers, and he's
Oh
like,
my
"We need
God.
to gather all the slashers together to save the world."
They're the Ragtag Suicide Squad? Is that what you're trying to tell me?
It's kind of a Suicide Squad. Yeah, you're right.
All right. I'm sorry. Go on.
He goes to get Rogue out, but he sees that the tree's broken off, and he sniffs the air and pauses, and then he snicks the claws out. And here comes Sabretooth. Sabretooth, played by Tyler Mane, a WCW wrestler, I think, at the time.
Oh, yeah, is it? That's fine.
This
is interesting.
I like this Sabretooth, Rachel.
He looks like an animal.
He
looks like a wild animal.
He's not as mouthy as he should be.
Yeah, I don't,
because he's a total dick in the comics.
Right. It's one of those things where they made the flunky, like he's just kind of a flunky in the bad guys
he's a
group.
Tough. He's a heavy.
But he never talks. He doesn't really talk.
Right.
And there's nothing there to give him more personality than just what he does.
Yeah.
And
well,
it's like how what they did to Bane in Batman.
It's not as bad as what they
it's
did
not
with
as
Bane
bad
in that movie.
But you know what I'm talking about. It's just like he's just like
Yes.
this weird side character that never talks,
They
only
don't-
is the muscle. That's all he's
They
there
don't let
for.
him have as much personality as he
Right.
has, for sure. Yes, in other iterations. But he looks the part.
Oh no, he looks
like
good.
Sabretooth.
Yeah, he looks good.
Liev Schreiber in X-Men Origins Wolverine, which we'll get to that one day and talk about that. But I like that portrayal of
Yes.
Sabretooth as well,
The
because he is a little more
personality.
mouthy and stuff.
Mhm.
Yeah. Sabretooth and Wolverine, who have a long history in the comics and every other iteration of X-Men as well, I kind of miss that here. Like, as a kid, I was like, why don't they know each other? Like, shouldn't this be... Like, I was excited.
You want that. Like, he
I
knew
was
that
excited
smell.
'cause-
He knew what he was getting into
Yes.
all of a sudden.
Yes, because I was like, great, I would get to see Wolverine fight Sabretooth in a movie, but at the same time, I was like, there should be more... They should... At least Sabretooth should be like, oh, hey, runt, or whatever, and Logan
Right.
doesn't know who he is.
Yeah.
But, like, Sabretooth should.
Right.
And maybe they hinted at that, and maybe, you know, because I haven't... It's hard because we've seen this movie so many times. Like, maybe the first time you saw it, maybe you could think, like, oh, does Sabretooth know who he is?
Sure.
And, like, is this
It's a possibility.
is this a random
Maybe
attack?
that's how he
like, you don't...
knew where to find him and how, like what's going on. And
Mm-hmm. Sabretooth hurls Logan around as the fire spreads. Sabretooth approaches the car. I guess attack Rogue now, because
right, because
Logan's
now
out.
he took one down, he's going to get the other.
But a wind gust comes, and a blizzard starts, and there's Cyclops and Storm. Cyclops shoots at him, but he leaps away and runs off.
Yeah, it's kind of
and
silly
they
looking.
the jump you didn't like?
It just made me laugh a little bit. I was like, oh, that's kind of funny because it just looked a little silly. I thought this was weird. The way they get Rogue out, like, okay, look, wouldn't you say something? Again, with no dialogue, with like nothing being said, like they just stare at her, shoot at the seat, and then like drag her out.
Yes, you're right. It is a little awkward because you wouldn't be like, it's okay, I'm Aurora, like
it's okay, like, I'm here to help. Yeah.
No,
it's just kind of like, here's my hand,
Cyclops.
Take it.
it's Cyclops turning the visor, shooting the seatbelt, and then Aurora taking the hand. Yeah.
It's just like, it's just so like...
Now that you mention it.
So it's a little stilted.
Yes. Scott pulls Logan away as the car blows up, and we get a fade to black.
Beautiful fade to black.
We cut to Toad with big eye goggles on. Get it? Because he's a toad.
Yeah.
And he's spray painting with what turns out to be the Statue of Liberty bottom thing that they connect to the torch so that it... Yeah.
So it blends in. He wants it to blend in.
Yes. Sabretooth comes in angrily. And we got to talk about this lair. He growls at him. Yeah. This lair of Magneto. Where is this, and what is this thing?
I mean, did he borrow this from Lex Luthor? Because it looks like they're underground somewhere.
I got a deal for you, Magneto. I got you this island. So I was trying to figure that out too. Are they underground? Like, what's going on? Eventually, we learned that it is an island.
Yeah.
And this is where I was trying to figure out, did he make it out of metal? Is it a metal island?
Oh, do you think it's like a barge type of thing where he like actually made it out of stuff and...
Because like, how else is he making this? Like, where else is he getting
I think
this?
most of it's rock, but it makes sense that he like put some of it together.
Yeah, maybe it's an uninhabited island, and then he like put it all together with metal and shit.
Right.
That's because it has to be something like that.
It's just odd. It's a little weird.
So do you like this one better or Lex Luthor's lair better?
It's a good question. I feel like we get to see more of Lex's, and considering his is a little bit more like luxury-ish.
This is a little more homey.
Yeah, it's a little bit more homey. This one's like, here's my rock cave.
I don't believe in televisions. I don't believe in any modern conveniences. Those are all things created by Homo sapiens.
That's right. But I do does love his like silver balls that bob back and forth. What is that called?
Yes. The pendulums?
The little pendulum things, yes.
Did you notice that they're not on anything? The strings?
Yep.
He's just doing it.
Which means he's like focusing on that. As well as doing everything else.
Maybe that's like one of his, like a fidget spinner type of thing.
Oh, is that what it is?
He's just kind of
knocking them back and forth. Interesting.
Because
they do fall
I never
off the
noticed
table.
that. Yeah, when he leaves, they fall off the table.
Yeah. Yeah, I've seen this too many times.
Yeah. Sabretooth explains to Magneto what happened. Magneto's got a desk. I thought it was weird that Magneto has a desk.
It's a metal desk.
Strange.
Why can't he have a desk? He kind of made himself...
What's he filing papers?
Why does he need an evil lair?
He's got to live somewhere.
Where's his house? Doesn't he have a house?
This is his house. He's a terrorist.
All right, fine. Then why can't he have a desk? I think he wants to feel like a big businessman desk. Yes. He made it. It's metal.
Desk in here so that I can write my novel.
I could see Magneto writing a novel. That makes sense.
Yes. Oh God, what would Magneto's memoir be called? Magnetic Me? No, that's terrible.
Magnetic Me. Oh my
it would
God.
just be called Homo Superior.
Honestly, that sounds about right to me. A bit Darwinism as well.
As this portrayal with, yeah, but it's also Homo Superior.
That's right. I like it. Beautiful.
Sabretooth shows Magneto the dog tag of Wolverine, which is a red herring because
he didn't show him it.
Oh, Magneto pulls it.
Magneto pulled it off of his neck. Like, what is that?
Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of a red herring because throughout this whole movie you think that Magneto wants Logan for some reason.
Yes.
Spoiler alert, what eventually turns out to be is that he wants Rogue, but you also then see him look down at his arm because he has the Auschwitz serial number burned into him. Because Logan was in the army, even if you take whatever iteration you want to take,
Right.
Logan always is some sort of soldier in some sort of war, and was in World War II and fought, as a Canadian in World War II and stuff.
Right.
So I think that's all supposed to be part of it.
I think also it's kind of one of those things where he's branded. That's his brand, is his number and his name.
Is his dog tag?
Is his
I
dog
like
tag.
that, Rachel.
Yeah.
I like that.
So he kind of feels that
That actually
branding.
works pretty well.
Yeah.
I'll give you a little golf clap for that one. No,
Thank you.
it is, because what we learn is that the government did that to Logan, so they did
Right.
brand him.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, brilliant. Rachel's got her monocle on. She's happy about that one. Back at the X mansion, Jean is examining Logan, who is still out somehow.
Yeah, that's a long time for him to be out for.
Yeah, so Sabretooth beat the shit out of him.
He must
guess.
have knocked him in the head. It must have just jumbled some stuff a little bit.
He goes to draw blood, but Logan wakes up, headlocks her, and runs off.
Well, first you see Jean actually, use her little powers
uses her telekinetic
to
ability.
pick some stuff
yeah.
up.
Yes, for no reason, just because
Yeah, it was
she
kind
can.
of like, you probably should have just had that next to you. Like, why didn't you bring your card over? But I guess, you get lazy when it comes to having powers like that.
Yeah, I would. I like the design of the mansion, the sleekness and the steely sleekness of all of this, and the different hallways and stuff. It does fit.
It's kind of like here's the underground tunnel.
Xavier Institute. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Logan walks around and he starts hearing voices. So he starts getting paranoid and trying to get out of there. We see the suits, so he walks by some of the X suits as well.
Yes.
He grabs a hoodie, licensed by Xavier, I guess. If I'm going to open up a school, then I'm always need some different, some different
merch.
apparel for all the kids to wear. We need hoodies, we need backpacks, we need t-shirts.
It kind of makes sense. It's like
We're
uniformish.
going to
it's workout.
We're going to
It's
have
a
a
workout
water
hoodie.
polo team. Could we have some sort of varsity team? And we could have cheerleading outfits and some jerseys. Do they have
yes.
jerseys? They've got to have jerseys for Xavier's
The
Institute,
Xavier,
right?
yeah,
That's
I
gotta be a
would.
thing.
They just gotta be big X's, right? Like 3D X's,
wait.
with shadows and stuff on them.
So
It's
you
Xavier's
think
school.
that their
I don't know what their
symbol's
mascot
just a big
is.
X?
Yeah, just like the X-Men
Xavier School for Gifted
youngsters.
Youngsters. Which is such a 1960s term.
It really is the youngsters over here.
Whether it's a school for youngsters. The mutant being.
Is it just the
The
gene? Is it like the gene from
Wolverines.
Jurassic Park? He just kind of the little
Oh,
DNA guy, the little DNA guy,
Mr. DNA.
Yeah, Mr. DNA
DNA
could be their mascot.
Yeah, I'd be
honestly.
alright with that. Charles is selling merch, as we know. You can get these on this thing called the internet. And I sell them all across the globe. We have many fans. This is how I actually
influence people
fund
to
the
buy
Institute.
them. It's wonderful.
Black Friday is upon us, people. You should buy this Charles Xavier Institute for Gifted Youngsters backpack.
It's
and
very
hoodie.
comfortable, very affordable.
You can buy the mascot here. It's a little Wolverine. Look at him. He's stuffed. He's so adorable.
I would like a little Wolverine.
You can buy the whole set. Here's a little Cyclops and a little Storm. And of course, you can just top that all off with a little plush version of Charles Xavier. Look at how adorable. Logan goes in an elevator, which sort of opens up by itself, and goes up to the main mansion. Kids kind of exit the classrooms. Logan hears all
passing
these
period.
people coming. He hides behind a pillar while the kids run by. As a kid, I can kind of remember thinking, oh, look, there's actually kids in the school. Mm-hmm. Because in the cartoons, and I didn't read a lot of the X-Men comics at that point in my life, but in the cartoons, it was just the X-Men because it was too cheap to have random kids.
Right.
So to actually see it as a functioning school was kind of cool.
Yeah, it's a lot more fun to actually have students that are running off to class.
He goes through a door.
Like
I
a
shouldn't say
hidden
that.
door. This What?
He goes in a door, not through a door. That's in a second.
Oh yeah, that's Kitty.
So, go ahead, what were you saying?
This door though is just the wall. Like do you see a door when he runs through it? Because I feel
There's
like
a
every time
lot
I've
of
watched
that,
this,
yeah.
it just looks like a wall.
Well, my father was very paranoid, and he put up all these fake doors everywhere.
Because like the whole walls are all paneling, right? It's very pretty because it's like all that like old school like wood paneling everywhere. Very
Beautiful
pretty.
mansion. Beautiful mansion.
But
It
he
is.
has,
It's very
like-
nice looking mansion.
Yes, absolutely. But it's
You
like
know,
a hidden door.
Some people with a lot of money make very, very ugly looking mansions, but I've made a pristine looking mansion. Every room in this Xavier Institute is wonderful looking. Who built the underground part? Come to think of it, did he have a bunch of
Beast.
contractors? It was all Beast. I guess some of it
Maybe
could
when
have been
Magneto
Eric.
was his friend. Yeah.
Yeah, because Magneto helped build the Cerebro room. So I
Exactly.
guess Magneto could have just and like all
Yeah.
the shits on the walls.
And he
now.
probably
Yeah,
did have
all right.
contractors, but they each did only a little piece so that they didn't know exactly what he was building down there. So he could have been a serial killer for all they knew.
Oh, you going over there work on that Serial Killers Institute again? Yeah, crazy bastards. We're digging 200 feet down a hallway, and his boyfriend comes out and says, "Don't worry about it. I'll put the shit up on the wall myself." And we're like, "What are you talking about?"
He's like, "All
Gotta
you're
put
here
the
for
pipes in. Anyway, what the hell are we talking about?
That was great.
So he goes into the room, and
There's
Charles
kids.
is giving a lecture
Yep.
to some of these kids. The Socratic seminar classroom that Charles has here, where it's
Yeah,
just like,
it's
come
just
into
like
my
a few
office, I'm
kids.
teaching you physics. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I do think that there are a few grades in each class, because I mean, you're building up this
That's
school
fair.
and everything.
That's very fair. But they're all staring at him now. It's very awkward.
Yeah, well, they're all staring at him because this weird guy with this crazy ass hairdo came into this room. Charles says, like, "Okay, class, like, dismissed," and that's when you get Kitty going. Kitty forgot a book, and then she's like, "See ya, professor," and then walks through the door. Doesn't bother to reopen the door, and Logan's like, "What the fuck?" Yeah. I've always liked Kitty Pryde. I like that there's a little cameo by her in
Right.
this movie, because I've
Yeah.
always thought that she's a good character to have around.
I think so. I mean, they mention her at the beginning too. She's from Illinois, and
they
she can
mention her
walk
at the
through walls, and then
Yeah, a girl
she's
in Illinois
here
that can walk
now.
through walls. Yeah, we got ourselves a mutant here. We
Her
got
name's
ourselves a
Kitty.
mutant here in Chicago. She goes through the walls.
Oh yeah,
She'd
she's
be
the
great
pride
on the
of
Bears.
Chicago, if you get what I'm saying.
Here. Oh my goodness, you're absolutely right. That's actually we God damn it. We need to get a t-shirt that says Pride of Chicago with a Y. It's just the Shadow Cat symbol.
Oh
We should
my
be
God.
selling that.
That sounds great. The pride of Chicago.
The
Kitty
Pride
Pryde.
of Chicago. Kitty Pryde. She'd be great on the Bears. Because you hand the ball off to her, who gonna tackle her? Because she just goes right through them. You get her the ball.
That's right.
It is a cheat code. You can say what you want. Wolverine, he can't take the claws out. He'll get a personal foul. He gonna get tackled the second he
That's
touches the
right.
ball. You give the ball to Kitty Pryde, and she is gone. End zone every time. There's a little too Minnesota, but whatever.
Wait till my favorite character comes back on the screen.
Who's that?
Scott. I hate Cyclops. He's such
Oh.
a dick. He's such a dick.
You really have to read the more modern comics where he becomes Magneto.
Well, he was a dick in the not modern comics, so
So Charles introduces himself and asks Logan, "Whoa, would you like some breakfast, Logan?" I gotta tell you, Rachel, I'm guessing that the breakfast at the Xavier Institute, pretty good.
I kind of would assume so. You got like a private chef, maybe
Do you
making
think
like
there's a
some
chef
food.
there?
Yeah.
Which mutant do you think is the chef?
Oh, you think it's a mutant chef? I guess it would have to be a mutant chef. Would it have to be?
It could be someone that's just,
I feel like for some reason in my head, the chef isn't a mutant and has to deal with all these mutant kids, and I was always yelling at him and like shaking
I
his
like
fist.
that idea for a comic book. Give me that comic book, Marvel. Just one issue about the put-upon chef that has to work at this damned Xavier Institute.
You got kids coming in and sneaking snacks all the time, and he's like, what are you doing?
You goddamn nightcrawler stole the goddamn food again. Yeah. I like it. I like that very much.
Oh.
Logan asks where Rogue is. He says she's here, she's fine. And he's like, really? Storm and Cyclops enter because I think Xavier was like, you guys got to get in here, or, Logan's here, like, come introduce yourselves, like, minded them.
Sure, that makes
sense.
To
me, my X-Men, if you will. Scott offers a handshake, and Logan doesn't take it. And Logan is very antagonistic this entire time to Scott. For no reason, really.
Is it just because he's a pretty boy? Because I don't get it.
Yeah, it's because he's a fancy boy. Oh, a little pretty boy over here. Which, like, you're Hugh Jackman. You're pretty, too.
That's very true. I don't know. I mean, Scott, to me, is always a jerk, but he's fine. He's immediately antagonistic, though. You're right.
Yes.
But maybe he smells something about him. It's one of those things. He's got that animalistic smell. He's just like sense him. He's like
this guy's a prick.
Yeah.
Rachel, can you explain why? Because forever, your entire life, you do not like Scott Summers. You have never liked Scott Summers. To the point where when he became basically a Magneto, I kept spamming things to you of the Cyclops was right meme just to be a jerk. So why have you always not liked Scott?
His attitude in the comic books always bothered me. And like the way he
you think you're better than me, don't you? That's kind of your thought.
I feel he kind of acts that way. He's kind of a jerk. There was something specific that happened, I think, between him and Jean, too, in one of the comic books. It must have been the Phoenix one or something. And I was just like, see? Right there. That's why. But it's true. I don't think I've ever liked him.
You have never liked him.
I don't know what it is.
You've never liked him. So this is Scott Summers and Aurora Monroe, also known as Cyclops and Storm. Cyclops, of course, has the ability to shoot plasma out of his head. Like, what is that? Like some sort of like laser rays. Yes. The down part of that is that he cannot see because it, of course, comes out of his eyes, and he can't control it coming out of his eyes. It just comes out whenever he opens them. So he has to wear glasses or this visor that is like some sort of like ruby tint to it, so that he can see through it. It's like a prism.
Right.
But that's about it.
Yeah, because it's kind of like, you wonder how that kind of works, because it has to like contain that laser, because it's always shooting out whenever his eyes are open. So it has to contain it. And then I'm wondering, like, does it actually shoot back? Like, how does that work with the way his eyes are? Because like, it's the same thing with like the visor that he puts on too. That allows him to control how much comes out. But it's like, it's just a really interesting concept, considering it's something that he can't even open his eyes. It just immediately comes out.
And Storm, of course, has the ability to control the weather near her, which sounds like a pretty damn powerful...
It sounds really cool.
That's
amazing.
She's the most probably in control, because, like, she could destroy everything if she wanted to.
She could cause a typhoon. She could cause, like, tornadoes everywhere.
Yeah.
She could just, like, kill everybody with weather easily.
Yeah, and
lightning. That's a big one for her.
She loves using lightning.
Lightning's cool, though. Come on, if you were able to wield lightning, like now I want Storm's power. Now that I'm thinking about it,
we're just like, you know what?
I changed my answer.
It's that.
I want my own personal rain cloud. Damn it!
Now I'm just picturing that scene from Parks and Rec where Paul Rudd and all of them are doing the debate, and he goes, "Sean Connery, no." Timothy Dalton, because somebody asked him who his favorite Bond is, and I'm picturing you going, Gene, no, Storm, like that same. So yes, my favorite thing about Storm's backstory is that, like, she was a little girl in Kenya growing up, and her powers manifested, and she was able to use them to bring rain to stop a drought. So she was like a little thief. Orphan thief, and then like use this, and then they treated her like a goddess and stuff.
Yeah, that's kind of fun though. I love
then
that.
The Shadow King and all of that kind of. So anyway, we'll get into that of course Sunday. Charles explains who Magneto is and Sabretooth, and Logan finds it all stupid. And he says, what do they call you?
Yeah, because of all these names. But it's like, you have the name Wolverine. All right, sir.
Sir, you call yourself. But the difference is he's like, that was my army, like, tag or
right.
whatever.
Yeah, it makes sense.
But
it's like a
yeah,
nickname.
You're right, Rachel.
Everybody
like,
here
you
has a
call
nickname.
yourself, like, what the fuck, man? Yeah.
But then, yeah, he makes fun of him and says, what do they call you, Wheels? Or Baldy.
And then he threatens Cyclops by, like, picking him and be like, get out of my way. And it's like, what did he do to you?
I think he's just trying to be intimidating, because it works usually to get him out of everything in the past. It gets him out of stuff. He just is intimidating.
Yes. He uses violence quite a bit to get him out of a jam, sure.
So he thinks, oh, they'll leave me alone if I'm just like an ass, and
if I'm a jerk, they'll let me go.
They'll tell me I can.
They're like,
just
I don't
leave.
want to put up with him. Just go, yeah.
But instead, they kind of just like, no, it's fine.
Yeah, because even Cyclops like looks at Logan for a second, and then he like and like moves his head to the left to like Charles. Like, I'm gonna kick his ass. I'm gonna kick his ass, and
I'm gonna do it.
So Charles,
I'll put down these glasses.
I'm gonna put a hole through the fucking office if he doesn't. So Charles antagonizes Logan by saying he knows he can't remember his past. This I always remember too because of Hugh Jackman's delivery of "shut up." Has always stuck with me too. Charles makes a deal with Logan that if he stays with him at the mansion, he could help figure out where he's from, like what happened to him, like he can't remember like what happened to him, and
which I guess like makes sense because it's like I could probably like open up his brain. He's probably like feeling
Xavier's
that
like
confident.
I can dig into your memories, or like the area of your brain that you can't
that's like suppressed
you can't register.
Yeah.
And Logan's like, well, how are you going to do that? And he's like, well, you're not the only one that has powers. And he says it to him telepathically.
Yes.
And Logan's like, what is this place? And that's when we get like a little montage of what the school is. Different things going on around the school.
Yes. There's like kids playing games and running around, so you kind of see little powers that they're doing. Like the kid who's cheating at basketball. And
I like that one.
The Jesus kid running across the water.
Yeah. I like those examples because they're not necessarily real X-Men like from the comics. They're just like different.
No, but
things
they
that
could
come
be
up with,
stuff.
Like, what could be like a fun little
Like I'm wondering, is the kid who walks on water? Can he walk on water? Can he make himself like weightless, or is it more like he's a speed thing? Is he
kind
that
of
fast?
speeding up? Yeah, tadpoling off kind of thing. Yeah, that's a great question. I like the idea that he can walk on water.
I like the idea that it's just him walking on water.
There's a deleted scene. Part of it is in this, but it's expanded.
Mm-hmm.
So part of the montage is Rogue is in a class being taught by Storm. Storm is teaching history. And what's in the expanded scene or the deleted scene, she's teaching a story about Roman history where they got the emperor to turn into a Christian, and that's how they were able to stop being persecuted. Like Christians were able to stop being persecuted because they converted the emperor. And by converting the emperor, you put him on your side because now all the people have to kind of deal with it.
Sure.
It's supposed to be a parallel to foreshadow Magneto's plan. Today's day and age, you can see some people, But anyway, like that's the theme. Yeah.
Parallels.
And then Pyro does the thing with the ball of flame.
Yes,
to,
that he uses like from the lighter. Yeah.
Yeah, and
then Iceman.
Bobby Iceman makes this.
Freezes it and it breaks and then gives her an ice rose, and
it's slow moving. It's a very slow moving scene. In fact, one thing about this whole movie, it's a little sleepy compared to some superhero movies. Compared to modern ones.
Well, compared to modern day, sure.
It's a little sleepier.
This
now, part of that might be because...
This one kind of feels a bit more story...
subdued.
Less, like,
character-driven.
action. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's because Bryan Singer's not great at action, and they were trying to make it more serious. I don't know if that's actually true or not, that it would necessarily be sleepy, but because I would fall asleep watching this a lot, to me, it's like, okay, I should be watching this in bed or in the car or whatever. So it might just be a trigger.
Because your thing is just like an easy flowing one. It's not like a fast paced action pack.
Yeah.
Keeps moving that way.
Storm, Halle Berry using her accent. She's trying to do a Kenyan accent, I think.
That just gets worse and worse throughout all the movies.
It gets so bad to the point where they just drop it. To the point where she just talks like Halle Berry at one point, which I could get with if, like, okay, eventually she just loses the accent a bit because she's like just around Americans all the time, and
right,
so she loses the accent.
Her accent kind of like
it
fluctuates
should be there
a little bit
subtly though, but in this one it's not great.
She's trying.
Bobby hits on Rogue with an ice flower.
Yes, the ice rose.
And I was like, what the fuck am I supposed to do with this? Like, my reaction, like, great, do you want me to, like, take this out of the room? Like, this ice flower? Thanks. But he's clearly, like, hitting on her. Now, Rachel, I don't know if you know this about Iceman in the comics. Iceman in the comics does date Rogue a little bit, might date Kitty Pryde a little bit,
right? But ultimately,
at the end of the day, he is gay.
Yes.
And
I did know that.
I don't think the actor, I don't know if he's supposed to be gay or not, but you could kind of see that.
He could still work that. Yeah, he could definitely work that angle. Absolutely.
Yeah, it would make sense. It took 70 years in the comics for him to come out. It was always like speculated, like he's either bi or gay. Like, like it was always like he kind of comes off that way in the comics, I guess.
Yeah.
And then like eventually they were like, yeah,
no, just drop it. Let's do it. Yeah.
Yeah. Iceman has a brief relationship with Romeo, a waiter he meets while living in Los Angeles.
Oh, so just a waiter. That's nice. There you go.
Then later on, he is seen reconnecting with Rogue. They kiss.
So he is kind of a player.
Bi.
This guy is all over the frickin' place.
Yeah,
he's macking on everybody.
So, but yeah, it sounds like they've made him more into like bisexual at this point.
That's fine.
So Xavier shows him the jet and everything. He says that he discovered his powers when he was a boy, and when he was 17, he met a young man named Eric Lencha, which is not what they show in First Class, but whatever. And Eric had the ability to control metal and called himself Magneto. Well, he says that believing that humanity would never accept them, he began calling himself Magneto. I like the notion of that, and that's pretty canonical too. Like he changed his name, kind of a thing.
He's taking the name and the full role of being a mutant. That's his mutant name.
Xavier says, "Give me 48 hours to figure out why Magneto wants Wolverine, and he'll figure out his past." Cut to Senator Kelly, who is making a public appearance, protesters and supporters around him.
They have like a person on a stake, and it says Mr.
Yeah,
Mutant.
they're
like that's
they're like I was
creepy.
like, are they lynching a mutant? What is going on?
It's creepy, but it's true. This is what's happening.
That's what happens. And then he gets in a helicopter, which I thought was weird because it's like, do the senators have access to just helicopters like this?
I guess. I guess if he's going into like a big meeting, maybe with the president or something. I don't really know where he's going.
Like what? Who gave him this helicopter?
I don't know.
In any event, Peter Gyrick is there. Gyrick, who's also in the comics a bunch. Kelly is trying to whip up some votes to get support for the Mutant Registration Act. He says that it's going to be a close vote, that it's why people like him exist. Kelly says that, like, the reason that people like I exist is to protect the world from these mutants, because if it were up to him, he'd lock them all away.
Right. Exactly.
So total mask off at this point.
Oh, absolutely.
Round
them up. Let's go.
Like, we need to round them up. Yeah.
Yes, it's scary.
Speaking of mask off.
Oh my god, I remembered this line too. I was like ready for it. I was like, ah.
Mystique's line?
Yes.
So here's Mystique.
Because he said, "This is why I exist."
That cello for her theme. She's like the only. Magneto has a distinct theme. Yeah.
And it fits with the way her like unmasking of her.
Yes.
Her body works. Yes. Mm-hmm. Because it almost looks like scales too. The way that do you
want to say her line, Rachel? Since you like that one.
You know, people like you are the reason I was afraid to go to school as a child.
Yeah, and she just kicks him in the face.
Yes.
And knocks him out. And then Toad and her pilot the helicopter away. A couple of things here we could say. Mystique, yeah, you said like she's got like the scaly blue. She's all blue. She's got the scaly blue. Yes. She's completely naked. She does not like to wear, which you would have to be, I guess, if you're gonna
spy
and transform all the time.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, she can create
comics,
clothing
she's
and
not,
stuff,
but-
so it's like.
Yeah.
But I think it's
Yeah, she
also the point of this is me.
It's a point of pride. This is me. Yes. Yes, absolutely. She is probably the most
I love her.
devout zealot of Magneto. It's a good character. It's a good character in every iteration. Rebecca Romaine is playing Mystique. She had to go through, I think they said 6 to 10 hours or something like that.
They said
of
awful.
makeup.
And
And
every
she
time.
hated it. She said it was just miserable.
Well, it was all that blue, right? And then yellow contacts because her eyes are yellow.
Yeah.
And then I'm guessing like
Yeah.
the hair too, because it's like red hair
Yeah, it's this red hair.
and it's greased bad.
She's really good at this.
Oh, she's fantastic.
Character though. That I mean, she's not, what I would say like an established actress. And they probably just got her because, like, you're comfortable standing there naked.
She is
This
gorgeous.
whole shoot.
I will tell you that.
So it's a good character. She's just a vicious assassin spy
Yes,
for
and,
Magneto.
and I like that. It's very fun. But again, it's another one of those characters where I wish she had more lines.
Yeah.
You know? And she's kind of missing out. Her and
That's
Sabretooth, I
kinda
just
my-
want more.
That's kind of my mantra for this entire movie. It's like,
Yeah.
I wish there was more to this.
Right.
Which isn't necessarily a bad thing. But you
Yeah,
could see
because
a
I
lot of
guess
this
like
being
you could always have like,
expanded.
the next
Yeah.
the sequel or whatever, but
Yeah.
it is like I just wanted a little bit more.
Yeah. Where did they all learn to fly?
It's a good question. I don't know. I'm assuming Toad's the one who knows how to fly because he's the one actually flying the helicopter.
No, because she lands the helicopter later.
Oh, that's true. She also is flying a helicopter. Well, maybe she
So
learned from
where are
Toad.
they all? Well, okay, all right, that's fine. I guess you just need one of them to know how.
Only one needs to know, and then they can teach the others. Why not?
So they fly off to Magneto's weird rock metal island thing that he has.
The Magneto Island.
Magneto Island.
Islando.
What did you call it?
Islando.
I'm going to need you to say that one more time.
Islando. Like you had to add an O to the end of it.
Islando.
Yeah, it's island.
Okay, I got it. I was like, are you saying Orlando? This is Islando.
Magneto on his Islando.
The Magneto Island, Islando.
It was a bad joke. Take it out.
That was pretty bad. No. That was so bad it has to stay in. I just thought something, Rachel. I just put a thought in my head.
Okay,
of
I'm
what
excited.
This could possibly be a connection to.
Sure.
So, at one point, Magneto had an asteroid called Asteroid M. Don't ask. I think it's comic books. It's stupid. I wonder if that's supposed to be what this looks like because it's like all rocks and shit.
Oh, it's an asteroid. Because it is very dark rock. It's like obsidian.
It could be like a version of Genosha.
Yes. Oh, that's also very good. I like that.
It could be a stand-in for Genosha.
Yeah.
For folks at home that don't know,
That's
Marvel,
what the place is
Genosha's
called.
like
I was trying to remember
Genosha's
that.
an island that Magneto kind of commits human genocide on and makes it like
he conquers
a
that
safe haven for mutants. So it could be like a Easter
The
egg,
beginning
kind of like
of it.
yeah, or just kind of like a throw out there, like
Callback
people
type
will
of thing.
kind of, if they get it, it's like Genosha. But I have not gotten that in 24 years, so I'm glad that we.
Yeah.
Logan is being examined by Jean. He's getting an MRI and an X-ray.
He's getting an MRI. I'm sorry, I have to point this out. He is made of metal.
Yes,
He is getting an MRI.
Oh, you think that you have a problem with that?
Yes. I feel like he
Well,
would
you
have an
see,
issue with
what-
inside
no,
the machine.
no. I can explain. Back when Eric and I were putting together the school, he made an MRI machine that was impervious to other metals.
Oh, is that what it is? Oh, okay.
Yes. Because he couldn't stand in the room without causing an issue.
Oh, because he himself has a magnetic field. I
That's
got
right.
you.
He
Yeah,
would,
yeah.
yes.
Well, because he can move Logan, so it is like, a metal that has some type of magnetism to it. So if he goes into an MRI, it's going to have like an issue. It's my thoughts.
That's a fair point, Rachel. But this is the not too distant future, so.
All right, fair. Non-magnetic magnetic resonance machines.
That's right.
Sure.
We've evolved a new non-magnetic MRI machine. The M doesn't stand for magnetic anymore.
That's right.
Wolverine does get to say the line, couldn't wait to get my shirt off again, huh? The infatuation with Jean happens a little too quickly in this movie.
So fast. It's so fast. He's not there long enough for this.
It's a little too much. I get it. You're trying to get everything into this, but for that storyline to work, he needs to be there longer.
Right.
She sees the adamantium is through his whole body, and we learn about what Wolverine is. We learn that he could be older than Professor and all of this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
We get foreshadowing about experimenting on mutants as well, because Charles says experimenting on mutants is not unheard of, but he's never seen anything like this before.
Right. Wait till they meet Deadpool.
It's the same project.
I know, but still.
Kelly is strapped to a chair, seeing the Brotherhood around him, and then Toad, there's a pigeon on a dead tree, and Toad eats a bird from it.
That happens.
His tongue comes out and he eats it, and Kelly's disgusted. Because wouldn't you be?
Openly, like, loudly disgusted. Not like, ugh. Like, it was like, yeah.
All right, yes, it's a little over the top. I'd be a little more freaked out than I am disgusted.
I think so, too, yeah. But I guess because he already knows about mutants and stuff, he kind of, like, is less afraid, is more just disgusted by these people. Yeah.
Right, these fucking freaks. Yeah. Ian McKellen, so good in this scene. So good as Magneto. He gets this character right away.
Oh, absolutely.
Even the first line here, he's like, Toad has a wicked tongue, Senator. Just like you.
Yes.
And Magneto says that Mystique basically spied for him by covering his Gyrich, who they killed. Callie's like, you'll make everything that I've said about mutants true. Because if you kill me or you do anything to me, like, everything I ever said is going to be right. And they just kind of look at each other because they're like, yeah, that's not what our plan is here.
Right.
And then he goes into this God-fearing speech, which I really like, which is so good. He's so good.
Are you a God-fearing man, Senator? That's such a strange phrase. I've always thought of God as a teacher, as a bringer of light, wisdom, and understanding. You see, I think what you really are afraid of is me. Oh, it's not so surprising, really. Mankind has always feared what it doesn't understand. Well, don't fear God, Senator, and certainly don't fear me. Not anymore.
He gets in this machine thing, which is just kind of an elevator that takes him to the top of, like, a podium. I was going to call it a centrifuge, but that's not right. Like, what is this thing?
I think
what
it is like a centrifuge, isn't it? Because isn't that the thing that spins and whirs like that? Like,
yeah, I don't know. Folks at home, let us know what this is, what this contraption reminds you of.
It's similar to a centrifuge the way it, like, spins, right? But it's more so like those circles that spin around each other.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of that one model of, like, the concaving circles that spin around. Yeah.
It is. It's one of those, like, circle spinners where all these spheres are, like, rolling on each other.
I can picture it in my head.
Yes.
Yeah, folks at home, you know what we're talking about.
You know, picture the thing from Game of Thrones. That's what it is, all right? Now,
yes, it's the thing at the top of the tower in Game of Thrones, in Old Town. And he says that God works too slowly. And it rises him up. He puts his hands on it as it creates some kind of, like, projection wave that goes out based on his magnetism or something like that.
He's also, like, screaming, and you can't hear him.
Yes.
But he
you
looks
can't hear
like
anything going on.
In horrible pain.
This whole thing, because we don't really see the aftermath of this. We see, like, the wave shoot out, and then it, like, dies down, and then that's the end of the scene. When you end up learning what this plan is and, like, how he's using this machine and shit, it's such a super villainy plan.
Oh my God.
It's such, like, a very comic booky plan, because it's like, how the hell did he build this thing? How did he figure out how to do this?
Right.
Like, who came up with this?
Who was helping him with this? Right. Because he's not really a scientist. He's not really, like, an engineer.
Is there something else that would have helped him put this together?
I feel like there has to be.
Back at the X
No, it's all Toad. Toad is just, like, a genius.
Oh, yeah, Toad is a genius. Yeah, absolutely. He's a genius. He is a martial artist, all the above.
That's right.
Toad, we should say, played by Ray Park, who is Darth Maul from The Phantom Menace.
Perfect.
Perfect
choice.
He actually, Ray Park, joins our Two Timers Club of having another
doesn't
another
he?
thing validated. Yeah. Back at the X mansion, Logan is getting a room. Jean is showing him a gorgeous bedroom. In my opinion,
they're
little
actually
living
really
quarters.
nice. Like, they're really nice.
Great little accommodations here. I love all of the wood and stuff, like you said. She taunts him with her telekinetic ability and telepathy because he's kind of saying, like, is that your gift, putting up with Cyclops? Because she has, like, where do you stay? Because, of course, he's being creepy about it. She says, like, oh, I can do a little bit of reading of the minds. And he's like, oh, why don't you read my mind? She's like, no, that's okay. And he's like, wow, you afraid you might like it? And so he's like, being smarmy.
She does smile and laugh at that and then does proceed to try to read his mind.
Sure. And in the comics, it is portrayed that, like, lustily almost,
yes.
Jean has like a crush on Logan in that
That's
way.
what I feel like it is.
Because he is the antithesis of Scott, where it's like Scott is the
Jean side and Wolverine's
well
more
put
of
together.
the
Yeah,
Phoenix
is more
side.
of the Phoenix. Yeah.
That's
you know what, Rachel, you're right again. See, Rachel knows her X-Men.
That's right.
Did you write a thesis on the X-Men?
Maybe I have.
Doctoral? Okay. She does try to read his mind, and all she gets is the
flashes
of Weapon X and the experiments that happened to him, and she like freaks out about it because it's a lot of pain. Like she can tell like it's a lot of like there's something bad there, but she can't tell like what. And as she does that, Scott comes in. And the relationship stuff between Scott and Logan dynamic here, aren't you going to tell me to stay away from your girl? And he's like, well, if I had to say that, she wouldn't be my girl. And then right before the end of the scene, he goes, hey, Rachel. See, Rachel doesn't like it, but I'm like, that's the only way he can be like, I'm not a pushover almost to Logan, is to be like.
But it goes against what he just said. If I had to tell you, she wouldn't be my girl. And then he tells him anyways. So she's not your girl, Scott? Like... Oh, so I have a chance, is really what Logan could have said then.
Yeah, he could have, I suppose.
It just seemed so...
This is expanded a bit in a deleted scene. The two of them have a little bit more back and forth. Logan tells Scott... and I guess this kind of helps of why Logan might not like Scott, because he goes like, have you ever actually seen any real combat boy? And calls him a boy.
Oh, sure.
And then Scott says, have you? And Wolverine won't answer. Because, of course, he knows what the answer is, and he knows he's not going to talk about it.
Right. He knows it's yes, but he also doesn't remember it, is the thing.
And it could be really bad. Like, he doesn't know what he did.
Sure.
And that's why Scott responds with, it must suck knowing a boy like me saved your life. That's why he says it, a boy like me, because of the other part of the extended scene there.
Fair.
I feel like you could have kept that in.
Yeah, I don't think that would have been a problem.
Director, because that would have helped a lot with their dynamic.
Right.
Because a lot of this antagonistic dynamic you only get if you know the characters already.
Yeah.
If you went into this cold, you'd be like, why is he such an asshole to Cyclops?
Right. Like what is this? Why do they have this dynamic?
That night, Logan is having nightmares about the experience. Maybe it triggered something by Jean doing that to him?
Oh, maybe.
So
I have a feeling he has
about
nightmares. I think
Me
he
too.
already does, but
Yeah.
I wonder if that triggered one that night, though.
If that just happened to trigger one that night, yeah.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, because like that now it's like on his mind subconsciously.
Mm-hmm.
Rogue overhears him, and she goes to wake him up to check on him. I don't know how she like knew where Logan was staying.
Yeah, she heard him. Like she's in a room with like multiple people, and then she leaves this room. Yeah. And knows he's having a nightmare, hears him somehow, even though he's just kind of like making a dog noises when they're dreaming. And then
right. Yes, he is like a dog dreaming, yes.
And then his door is unlocked. So she just
you're not gonna lock your
room?
door? All these little fucking weirdo children, mutants? You're not locking your door? It's the first thing I'd be doing.
So there's a lot of questions there, but she figures it out, I guess. Maybe she couldn't sleep and she's just walking around and heard him.
Oh, you think that she went to go, I just went to get a glass of water and then I heard
Maybe.
all this screaming, Dr. Lecter?
It could be, I guess.
So she goes in to his room and tries to check on him. He violently wakes up because she's like, Logan. And
she's trying not to touch him.
Sure, yes.
I think it's the whole idea. She should have just used like the bed and like shook it. But
Yeah, or something. Yeah, anything here. I mean, you eventually
Just like
they
put
should
your
have
gloves on.
they
and
should
then-
have they should have brought a callback to this like later on and done a Haymitch wake up, knowing that he's gonna like brandish the knife around.
She just
like they should have
splashes
done
water and runs
Yeah,
away.
they should have done like X-Men like whatever Days of Future Past. Rogue should have like splashed water
Just like
on him,
thrown
and then
something at his head.
Yeah.
From far away.
But yes, he wakes up and we get the first Wolverine yell, which I always appreciate.
Yeah,
because
it's a good yell.
Hugh Jackman's not doing the gruff and stumble Wolverine voice from the 90s cartoon.
I think it would destroy his vocal cords if he did.
Probably. Yeah, he's doing like a regular version of an American accent, but he does do the yell pretty good as Wolverine. That,
Yes. He does that, and then all of a sudden his accent comes out and goes, "Help me."
yeah, a little bit.
I think he got way too into the scene. It was like, "Oh God, wait."
Yeah, those accents can go when you have to be emotional, or
Right.
like be lift your voice into
Yes.
a higher register. He stabs Rogue through the chest, and he screams for help. She, in the meantime, uses her powers to steal the healing factor from Logan, and that knocks him out. He does like the seizure thing, like her boyfriend did at the beginning.
Yes.
How did she know that was going to work?
So I'm wondering if they've been here for at least a week or something, right? No, because it's only like he only gave her 48 hours, so they haven't been here long
Xavier
enough.
could have told her.
Like, I
at
think
that
what your
point,
powers
like if they
do-
Because my guess is they examined him, but they probably examined
her at the
too.
same time. Yeah, because
Yeah.
she's new, so they want to like talk about her and talk about her powers. So I'm wondering if they kind of figure that's what's going on. So she has this in her head, right? If I touch him, I can absorb him, right? A little bit.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
enough. And
Yeah.
he can heal, so I think she's just hoping heal.
Yeah.
Don't be my boyfriend. Heal.
Right. Well, and I guess if it's me or
And I'm
him,
dying,
I'm not gonna
so-
fucking die because you stabbed me in the chest.
Right.
Senator, I'll allow it. Or I guess counselor, I'll allow it.
I'm not going to be Senator Kelly in this case.
The rest of the school hears this and runs into the room to stop Logan from convulsing on the floor. So that's twice in this movie that Logan's been knocked out.
This one
And
makes
woken-
more
and-
sense
and
for him
wakes
to be
up
knocked
randomly.
out, though.
Sure, no. But I'm just saying that's twice. We're going to keep count of how many times Logan is knocked unconscious and wakes up randomly. We probably could do that throughout the entire X-Men series.
That's true.
Actually. Because he gets knocked out and wakes up in a different spot quite a bit
Yeah,
as
that's,
Wolverine.
that's really true.
Marie says, it was an accident to Storm.
Yes.
And she kind of runs off embarrassed. Charles explains what happened and what Rogue's powers are, because they never really explained this to the audience, which I didn't really think about, but they never really did explain it. Because
Right.
now,
Not until now.
if she makes direct contact with someone, she absorbs their life force,
Right.
essentially. And in the case of mutants, she steals their powers for a short time.
For
so
a short
she
time.
stole
Until she kills somebody.
for a short time, unless she holds on too long. Yes. One of Rachel's favorite, I think it's one, because you like
It's
both
really
characters.
interesting because I like
One
both
of your
characters
favorite
so
things
much.
is the dynamic between Ms. Marvel and Rogue. I know.
It's
One day
great.
one day we'll do the cartoon episode of Rogue stealing Ms. Marvel's powers, because
That'll
I
be
didn't know
fun.
who Carol Danvers was when I was watching that cartoon as a kid.
That's true. Yeah.
In the comics, for those that don't know, or for those that were wondering, why doesn't Rogue fly and have super strength? Because she does in the cartoon.
Right.
The cartoon is following a storyline where Rogue just held on
Yep.
to Carol and puts Carol in a coma and steals her powers, and held on so long, and Carol, having the Kree DNA, is like able to get out of it eventually.
Which is surprising because she should have just been dead. But you know.
but because of that, Carol's always in Rogue's head now, and Rogue pretty much always has Carol's powers.
Yeah.
So like Rogue always has these like Ms. Marvel powers to be able to fly and super strength, which always haunts her because like Carol's always in her head now
Right.
too.
Yeah. She has kind of her a little inner demon of Carol Danvers.
Which wouldn't you? If Carol was in your head. Back in the lair, Kelly is in a cell and realizes. So he's trying to like figure out what to do. He's just like got his head up against the cell bars, and his head kind of squishes between the cell bars.
Yes.
This effect isn't
It's not too bad. It's not too bad, honestly.
For the year 2000, to be honest. So his body can stretch.
Because of the coloring and the lighting.
Yeah.
They kind of were able to
probably
fix
does
it a little bit.
to help with it. Yeah. And the fact that, like, you want his eyes to bulge out. So if it doesn't look natural, it's fine.
Right.
He tries to escape, but there's nothing on the other end because they're on this weird island thing.
Yes.
They're in the fucking Erie, and he's in the
it's kind
big,
of nuts. It's
sky
like this
jail.
drop off and everything.
And Magneto comes by to check on him.
It almost looks like a sewer pipe that he has him like hidden inside of.
Yeah.
It's weird.
Yeah, kind of. How do you feel, Senator? Advanced, I hope. I like him making the bridge to walk across to get to the cell, too.
No, I do love that, because it's like, I can get to you, but you can't get out.
Yeah, you can't get out. Nobody else can, too. They all have to,
That's
have
also
permission.
true.
Kelly's hanging off the wall, and Magneto says, "Oh, Senator, this is pointless. Who would take you in, now that you're one of us?" Just so devious. Sabretooth goes to grab him and bring him back in, but his stretchiness gets the better of it, and Kelly falls to his death in the water.
Yes.
Presumed death. Sabretooth, like an idiot who always fails, because he's just the bulk and skull of the Brotherhood, I guess. Him and Toad are bulk and skull.
They kind of are.
Yeah, a little bit. He gets scolded by Magneto as this little shit boy, this little turd child.
Yep.
Is poking at a jellyfish.
I guess that's kind of what Senator Kelly is. Yeah,
he's like a jellyfish?
I guess so. He kind of becomes like a gelatinous
He's
blob?
Just kind of a jellyfish blob.
Yeah.
Well, he's not the blob.
I'm sorry, he's not the blob, because nobody could stop the
No
blob.
one can stop the blob.
But this guy.
But this is supposed to be, I think, a bit of a metaphor of mutants, like this kid's poking at this jellyfish, and at the same time, Senator Kelly is now a mutant jellyfish, and I'm sure that there's something there.
Oh, there's something there.
Kelly is naked and reforming his body as people watch on. Stan Lee cameo? Did you ever notice this Stan Lee cameo, Rachel?
Is it the ice cream? Hold on.
Yeah, I'm buying a little ice cream.
Oh yeah, he is.
Some ice cream
yeah, he's at the little like stand for ice cream at the beach.
Yeah.
This one's way more subtle than like the later ones.
These are way better than those the newer ones. I like these when it's a little more subtle. It's kind of more Where's Waldo-y.
Yeah, that's.
I think it became a little too self-aware at the end, but yeah.
Yeah, but I think they also liked that it was.
Yeah, people liked it. Yeah.
It's surprising that like everybody notices like immediately that he comes out of the water.
If I saw a weird-looking naked man emerge on the beach, I think everyone would be looking as well.
No, I guess you're right, but at the same time, I'm just like thinking about being at the beach and like how busy it is. And a lot of the times it's just like you're not really paying attention to everybody else. It's loud, so you can't really hear everything.
Sure.
So it's like if a person just
domino
comes out of
effect.
the water,
they show
they're
it
just
kind
coming
of
out
as
of the
a
water.
domino effect.
But you're right. Yeah, that's true. It is
Yeah.
more of like the domino effect of somebody notices and then another person notices something's weird and then they notice it.
And he's like all pale and like gooey.
You can see
and then
through him. He's like veiny.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
Like it's not normal.
He's naked. And then I would just be like, God damn, naked guy on the beach.
I told these people to get rid of all the naked people on the beach. There's another naked mutant on the beach. Officer, there's a naked mutant on the beach.
All
And
these
I'm
naked
trying to
mutants.
enjoy my gelato. Kelly steals some clothes.
Yep.
I guess, and then just kind of wanders off.
Yeah, that's kind of what he does.
I want the scene of Kelly having to like evade police or something.
Yeah, I think he just kind of walks off. I don't think even anybody calls anybody. I think it's just kind of like,
I
oh
think
my
he
god,
walks
that just
off.
happened.
Yeah, and it's a mutant and it's weird.
Yeah.
Bobby admonishes Rogue for stealing powers, and I put Bobby in quotation marks because Bobby
That's right.
is saying that Rogue shouldn't have used her powers against another mutant, and she's like, that's not how what I really did. And
He tries to explain.
Bobby,
Yeah.
but Bobby's like, well, all the kids are freaked out, and Xavier's pissed at you, and you should just run away because you're a little dirty, stupid witch. And
That's kind of how he acts, yeah.
question. Because
Okay.
obviously this isn't really Iceman, this is Mystique.
Yes. And you know that because of the eyes.
Because the eyes are yellow.
Yeah.
How did Bobby did Bobby and Rogue talk about this later? Like, was Rogue like, Bobby, why were you so mean to me before I left?
I assume she had to have said something to him, right? Like, she's like, are we okay now? Like, I know you were mad at me before I left. And then he's probably like, what are you talking about? I was never mad at you. That's probably what it was. They must have talked about it.
There's a little scene between Cyclops and Xavier. They're talking about Wolverine, and Cyke is like, I don't like him. Or Cyke says something, and Xavier's like, you don't like him, huh? And Cyclops goes, how can you tell? And Xavier goes, well, I am psychic. I like that little kind of like, you know, I told it, it's like a Splinter. I told a funny.
I kind of wish he said he could have been like, well, you don't have to be psychic to see that. Like,
yeah,
that I feel like would have been.
I still like the line, I am psychic, you know, like, that's fine.
It's like, I can hear every time you're saying, what an asshole.
We get our introduction of Cerebro.
That's right. We're going
Rachel,
into Cerebro.
What's Cerebro?
Cerebro is this gigantic sphere. It's hollow. It has all these panels on it, and you kind of go into the middle piece. There's like a little bridge that goes into the middle part where there's like a console and everything, right? The whole point of Cerebro is so that Xavier can expand or like not magnify.
Oh, magnify. Yeah,
I guess is the word I was looking for. Magnify his
no pun intended
power. Yeah, well, kind of. To expand his power out to way further than what he normally can do. This way, he can actually like see he can see the entire United States. Can he see the globe with this?
Yes, if he concentrates enough, he can.
So the harder he concentrates, the further out he can see. So that's his way of being able to concentrate and find people and like hear people and all of that kind of stuff. So that's what he's
amplifies his power.
Thank you. Yeah. That's the word. That's the word I was looking for.
And I like the Cerebro set. I like how it's this big room. I think it's very neat looking.
It's nice.
It's a nice change. It makes sense of like you need to have like this isolated area, and it needs to be set up in such a way and everything like that. Mm-hmm. They're standing behind Charles as well as he like enters the room with like a retinal scan, and that had to be like a trailer shot, right? Like of the four of them standing behind Charles.
And then it opens.
That had to be.
Yeah, it makes sense that would be.
We learned that Magneto helped Charles build Cerebro because Wolverine's like, why don't you just use Cerebro to find Magneto? And he's like, he has a way to prevent me from being able to find him. And Wolverine's like, well, how the hell would he do that? And Charles is like, well, he helped me build it.
So he kind of has like ideas of what he could probably do to stop
Which
it.
I like the subtleness of that too, where it tells you that Magneto helped found this
They
school.
were friends.
Like, yeah. He at one point was optimistic, not as much as optimistic as Charles, but he thought it would be a good idea to have a place of refuge for mutants.
Right. And they worked together at points as well in their lives.
We learned that Jean can't use Cerebro because it's too dangerous for someone that can't control her telepathy. At some point, I think it might be in a deleted scene, where Wolverine tells Jean, like, do you think that they're all holding you back a bit, Jean? Because they keep telling you can't do this, you can't do that, which obviously it is Xavier's doing it on purpose to prevent the Phoenix. A little foreshadowing there as well. Mm-hmm. Xavier uses Cerebro, so we get to see him using Cerebro, and it's like this like cloudy fading in and out and around and stuff like that to try to find Rogue. He's trying to concentrate in on finding Rogue. He finds her at the train station. So Logan wants to go get her, but Xavier says, like, well, if you leave, Magneto's going to have a chance to get you, and we can't do that.
Right. He doesn't want to risk it.
I did have a question about this, Rachel.
Okay.
I'm going to probably have an answer for it, or at least a justification, but how does Charles not know that Mystique is at the school? Or does he just not try to get in everyone's heads?
I was going to say, I don't think he's actively in everybody's heads at all times, because I think he would have known Rogue left the second she left then. He thinks about it. He goes to feel for her.
Yeah,
and
then
grounds.
He's like, she's gone. Yeah, okay.
So I don't think he's actively feeling for people all the time.
Okay.
I feel like that would probably wear him out, too.
All right.
It would be interesting, though, if he did know she was there because he knows her wavelengths so well. Like, he knows her brain. And all of a sudden he just, like, was like, wait a minute. Like, something just popped into my, like, little bubble. Mm-hmm. But, yeah, he does not.
Storm and Cyclops go to get Rogue. But Wolverine steals Cyclops' motorcycle to get there first. So because he's Wolverine, he's not going to do anything that you fucking tell him.
Right.
Logan finds Rogue on a train, and they have a little conversation where Logan says he can take care of her. He thinks Xavier really wants to help.
He does this dad thing. It's very nice.
Yeah, he does the dad, the uncle thing of it's going to be okay.
Putting
They're
himself in
the
a
same.
group. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Because he also keeps himself alone.
Right.
So he understands, like, feeling alone.
Yeah. And it's
So
easier to be alone and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Which it is. Folks at home, I love being alone. It's great. I do. Simultaneously, Rachel was like, she was gonna say something. Simultaneously, we get Mystique breaking into the mansion below ground and getting into Cerebro using the retinal scan because she just turns herself into Charles's face and puts something into Cerebro that makes it like a dirty liquid. It's some kind of sabotage.
Yeah, I
know
don't really
what.
understand how the mechanics of this thing works because it's.
Well, you're not Hank McCoy.
I'm not Hank McCoy. You're right. But the thing is like he puts on a helmet. Is it like a gas? Is it like actually like touching him? Like what is this that like would actually pump into his body? Maybe like it's hard to tell. Like what would this do, or would it just mess with the mechanics so like it doesn't work properly?
I don't know. It's connected to like his brain.
It has to be, right?
Brain waves, brain something.
It's got to be like the brain
like
waves.
the little doodads and stuff.
Oh yeah,
because
he does
him a
put
really
on
bad
those.
headache.
Oh,
yeah.
that could be true. It's just a bad migraine, and he's just down for the count. I
He's
understand
just
that one.
out.
I feel for you there, Xavier. I feel for you there.
The boy at the train station, Rachel. I read this somewhere.
Okay.
The boy at the train station that keeps looking at Cyclops when Cyclops is like standing there, just like waiting just trying to see if he can like spot her.
Right.
Keeps looking at Cyclops with like a big smile on his face. So then Cyclops like turns and smiles back, and then the kid like gets all excited. And then the mom turns and is like, "Ooh, a freak with visor
he's got
on
this
his
crazy
eyes."
visor, yeah.
And is like, "Come on, get away." So apparently that little kid was like a big X-Man fan, and his favorite character was Cyclops.
Aw,
and they didn't know that. So then the kid could not contain his excitement from standing next to Cyclops.
Oh, that wasn't even like supposed to be part of it?
At some point, James Marsden just turned and smiled at him, and then they just kept it in the movie because they just thought it was cute.
Oh, I love that. I love when little
Don't know
stuff
if
like
that's
that
true
happens.
or not, but I
hope
I read
it is.
it on like.
I'm keeping it as my canon. So.
Meanwhile, Storm is asking the ticketer if he's seen Rogue, and then Sabretooth comes up from behind and attacks, lifts her up, chokes her, and says, "Scream for me."
Yeah, it's a little creepy. It's a very.
I liked
creepy.
it though.
Oh
really
yeah.
good.
But it's very creepy.
Cyclops sees it and is trying to get people out of the way so that he can use the visor, but Toad snatches it and
snatches the visor
and causes Cyclops to put a hole in the roof.
Yep.
Incidentally, that hole in the roof allows Storm to conjure some lightning and strikes Sabretooth and knocks him back out through a wall.
Which is great.
And then Toad insults Sabretooth. Quit playing around. The quit playing around I always remember too.
I do
Ray
too.
Park
There's
has like has like shit in his mouth. He's
Yeah,
like, quit playing around.
It's that accent. I mean, he's got a big tongue, you know, and maybe it's just the tongue.
That's true. Meanwhile, Magneto stops the train. He deforms it and like breaks it in half. It's pretty good.
Oh,
I
this
like
is
seeing
great, the way he comes into
it.
this.
Yeah.
Very Universal Studios to me, though.
Yes. Yeah, it is a very... But imagine that you like live in this universe. You'd be constantly terrified of these fucking whack jobs with godlike powers.
No wonder.
Wolverine takes his claws out, and Magneto stops him and goes, "You must be Wolverine. That magnificent metal doesn't run through your entire body, does it?"
He loves it.
Yeah, so he just lifts him up and stops him from moving because Wolverine's metal, and
that's right.
Magneto can control him, which is always a great little dynamic in the comics too.
Oh yeah.
And Wolverine's like, what do you want with me? And he goes, "My dear boy, whoever said I wanted you?" And they both like turn and look at Rogue.
Yep.
He flicks Wolverine away, shoots some sort of like anesthesia into
He darts her in the neck for the
well, it's easier to get her out that way. and they kidnap Rogue. But before they can, a bunch of cops have shown up because there's a hole in the roof and one of the trains has been destroyed.
Oh, yeah,
and
terrorist, attack pretty much at this train station.
Magneto puts his hands over his head because they ask him to. As he does it, he lifts up 2 cop cars and then throws them down on a couple of other cop cars.
Yep.
I wrote down, he does this, quoting Todd Packer, just to be a bitch. He does this.
Oh my God. True, though.
He didn't need to do that.
He didn't, but he's just showing his power.
He's got a flair for the theatrical, that Magneto.
He really does.
He steals all their guns and points them back at them.
That's kind of
And
great.
even says,
That's horrifying.
"These Homo sapiens and their guns." In today's day and age, it's even more commentary on, police, guns, and all of this stuff. You probably could write a paper about just this scene.
Oh, probably.
If you were so inclined.
But
Charles,
I mean, you gotta
over...
think though, the mutants, their powers are also their weapons. So
Charles takes over Sabretooth and Toad's mind, and Magneto knows immediately what's going on. And even when they're not on screen together, they have pretty good chemistry, because Magneto's like, "You're gonna have to kill me, Charles." And he's like, "Well, kill me or release me." And Charles doesn't do either. So he's like, "Fine, fuck you then, Charles," and shoots. Lets one of the guns off.
Yes.
But because he's Magneto, he can stop the bullet. And he just stops it
like a warning
lets this
shot.
Thing, go into
it's like
this
it's
guy's
burning
head.
the man's head.
Yeah. That would hurt like hell.
Oh my God.
Because the bullet would still be hot.
Slowly going into your head, and it's hot. Ugh.
Which we see him do later on in the series.
Yes.
The bullet goes into this guy's head, and Magneto cocks a bunch of the guns, and he's like, "I don't know if I can stop them all."
Right.
And for a second, I wonder if Charles is planning to have Jean try to stop
them all while
he turns and looks at
takes
her.
them out.
And I'm wondering, is he can we do
it
this?
together?
Can we push our luck? Yeah.
Right.
Charles doesn't have telekinetic ability. Just
telepathy. he would take out Magneto.
Yes.
While
that's what I
Jean
mean.
Protects everybody else.
Yes.
Yeah. So they would do it together. That's what I meant.
So there's a lot of tension in this scene, this standoff, where Charles is trying to stop Magneto, but Magneto is using the humans as a shield between him and Xavier, which is what X-Men is.
Right.
Charles acquiesces. He releases Sabretooth.
Mm-hmm.
And
Toad. Toad turned around.
Toad.
I'm not gonna make Toad see this. I won't make him.
Toad's an innocent,
Magneto
damn it.
die.
I'm not going to make you watch your mentor die. Turn around, Toad. I think it's more like he was having Toad walk away with Rogue. I think that was
yeah. He was
plan.
gonna bring Rogue to him. I guess that's true. Ever since I was little, it was either he was distraught about killing a friend, so it was his own perspective of turning away while he was going to do it, or it was like, why are you making Toad turn away? Do you not want him to be scarred? Because he's like a bad guy. I don't think he cares.
Your former thought on that's not bad. Magneto says, "Still unwilling to make sacrifices. That's what makes you weak." And then as Mystique lands that helicopter that they stole...
That's right, yes.
They all get in that helicopter, and Magneto goes, "Goodbye, Charles." And they leave, and all the guns fall to the ground. I like that scene a lot.
I love that scene.
Actually.
I think it's great.
Back at the mansion, Logan is mad that Xavier was wrong, and Charles is like, "I'm sorry, I don't know what to say." That helmet that he's wearing, it blocks his telepathy. He doesn't know what to do. And they're like, "Well, where are you going, Logan?" He's like, "I'm going to go try to find her." And they're like, "How are you going to plan to do that?" And he's like, "I'm going to go look." Probably not telling them that he has... Yeah, that he also has, the superhuman ability to, sniff stuff out, but they went in a helicopter, so how's he going to, what path are they going to find?
He's just going to try to figure out, where they're going. Also, I'm trying to remember, they don't explain it in the movie, what material the helmet is made out of. Isn't it, a special material? Isn't that why?
In the comics?
Isn't it the comics? Yes. It is the special material. Isn't it from Wakanda?
Wakanda.
Isn't it?
Yeah. I think it's vibranium.
It's vibranium. Okay.
Or lead? It could be lead.
Oh, lead could be true, too. So, like, he has the same problem as Superman. He can't hear through lead.
Well, so far, I only have one weakness, and it's lead.
That's right.
Why are you telling us this, Charles Xavier? Logan is trying to leave, and Storms tries to stop him by saying, like, you should be fighting with us. Like, you could help us stop Magneto and get Rogue. And Logan's like, well, you're all wasting your time protecting these fucking humans that don't give a shit. They're stupid, and they hate you, and why do you care? Magneto is right. There is a war coming. Are you sure you're on the right side? Which I remember being part of the trailer of him saying that. Mm-hmm. And then Storm's like, at least I've chosen a side. Because Halle Berry's accent is all over the fucking place.
Yes.
She's fine as a Storm?
Yeah, she would be good. I like her as Storm, but at the same time, it's the accent and stuff
Storm
is a little...
so essential as a character,
she
though.
really is.
I feel like her and Scott do not get enough to do in these movies at all, really.
Well, I think
so
is the problem.
There's
There's so many characters that they're having a hard time juggling who gets the most light.
Yeah, and they give so much of it to Wolverine,
yes.
which I get. Because Wolverine, at least, is a good conduit, in this movie especially, as, like, your outsider to help explain this world.
Right.
But then they probably should have, like, balanced it out a little bit in the 5 or 7 movies that were after this.
This is very true.
So Logan's about to leave. He opens the door, and then Senator Kelly is there. He's soaking wet, and he's asking for Jean Grey. Security at this place could be beefed up a little bit. The cartoon had some little laser guns and some fucking security cameras and stuff. Mm-hmm. Come on, Charles. So security cameras would probably have helped the Mystique situation at the very least.
Oh, probably, yeah. It is odd they don't have like much security. I guess he's just like, well, we are mutants, but it's like that's
just a bunch of mutants.
Stupid thought. That is a stupid thought.
Do you understand how much money I spent on the damned jet and the ability to move the basketball court? I can't afford a security camera.
One measly camera. I think they do get cameras later, though, because isn't there, like, a room with the cameras so we can see people running through the halls and stuff at one point?
I think that's right, in the second X-Men movie, yeah.
So
like,
he does learn.
A camera in front of Cerebro would have been, like, probably a nice idea.
Yes. Because then they could have at least...
ring... You want me to get a Ring membership? I have to pay $400 a year for this ridiculous thing. I can read people's minds. I'm not going to have this damn subscription.
But at least they could have, like, talked to Bobby and been like, what the hell did you do to Cerebro?
Bobby, we saw you go into the room.
Yes. Look, we have footage. It's like, what? I didn't go there, I swear.
I don't even know how to get down there.
I didn't even know that existed.
Senator Kelly is on the table, and Xavier says that we aren't what you think, not all of us. And Kelly's like, well, tell that to the ones that did this to me. And Kelly is, like, all veiny and stuff. Like you said, he's very, very pale and bloated and shit like that.
Yes. He, like, absorbed the water, I guess, as the blob.
Xavier reads his mind. He figures out what Magneto's plan is. He sees the machine. It, like, nearly kills Magneto. So to make it more powerful, he would have to, like, die up there.
Pretty much, yeah.
The machine creates an unnatural mutation, and it is destroying Kelly's cells, because it's, like, rejecting it, because it's not natural.
Right.
And they can't quite figure out why Rogue is needed for this, but then they actually give Scott at least something here, because Scott puts it all together, and he's like, well, wait a minute, didn't you say, like, it almost killed Magneto? So he's going to transfer his power to Rogue, use Rogue to...
power the machine.
Power the machine.
Yes. And if she dies, he doesn't care.
Kelly is turning to water. Storm is there to witness it. He, like, knows he's, like, about to die, so he's like, I don't want to be alone. He asks her if she is afraid, or if she hates normal people. And we get a little bit of character development here for Storm, because she's like, sometimes, because I am afraid of them.
Right.
Storm has always been a little bit of, like, the honest one about really not liking humans. Yeah. She doesn't really like humans a lot, canonically.
Sure.
She puts up with being fucking married to T'Challa. Like,
well, T'Challa isn't a
fucking human.
No, he
yes,
is.
he is.
Yeah, he is. You're right. Huh. And all of a sudden I was like, wait, he is just human, isn't he?
One less to be afraid of, says Kelly. Those are, like, his last words, as He bubbles up into liquid. He chokes on himself.
Yes.
That
is literally the noise that happens.
And he like kind of vanishes.
Yeah, he just becomes water and splashes.
Apparently there was a plan with the effects to make this even more gory and to have his like insides be there, and they thought it was like too much, so they just had it be like
I like
water.
the idea that everything turned into water and then just like
just completely his
just
whole molecular
expands,
structure. Yeah.
Is it like a radiation that is being pumped out? Like, I know it's supposed to be like, it's kind of like a flash of mutant to humans, and then it's trying to like clone itself into the humans, right?
I think you're right.
But is it like a radiation?
You're talking about
almost?
the wave from the machine.
Yeah, and it's almost like maybe like a chemo type of deal where it's, because that's like poking at that kind of stuff too to make it like go away and stop, right? So is it?
I think that's a good idea. Yeah.
So that's kind of what's happening.
To...
But it's like so extreme.
Yeah, it's supposed to trigger and change your cells.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what that would do too.
My brain just went there right now, so I was just like, is it like that?
Yeah. We've had that a few times tonight. Scott and Storm are going to ready the jet, and Charles says, get Logan a uniform. He's going to go find out where Rogue is. And Charles uses Cerebro to do this, but as he puts the helmet on, he gets the migraine like we were talking about, and he passes out on the... Thank God he didn't fall off the ledge.
I know! Could you imagine?
Like, come again, Charles. I'm not putting railings up. It's only me that's walking down this. I'll be fine. I'm not going to put a damned railing up. Do you know how
very
expensive
dangerous.
a railing is?
He could have just fell straight down to the bottom. He would have been like beaten, like his bruised. It would have been bad.
We don't know how far down it goes.
It's
it
huge.
looks like it goes
it's
down
massive.
pretty far. So now they don't have a mentor. Logan tells Scott he's sorry. He sees that Xavier's like comatose or out or whatever he is.
Right.
Jean
I don't
is
like that his
fixing
eyes are open too. It's very creepy.
His eyes are open too. And later on, Jean says to Xavier, says like, I knew that you'd find your way back.
Yes.
Xavier says, well, I had you to guide me, which makes me think that whatever that stuff was, it did something that caused Xavier to be stuck in his own mind.
Yeah.
And he had
like
to find his way back out.
Yeah, he like got trapped inside. And so she might have actually helped him.
Yeah.
Or, like open up some blocks or something.
Which again, how did Magneto know how to do that?
I don't know.
But
Crazy just here's the sauce for it. That's all we know.
Jean is fixing Cerebro while Scott has kind of a touching moment with Xavier. I wish this went on longer so that you got more of Scott.
Yes.
And Scott's motivations and his character, because he says like, if anything happens, I will take care of them.
Right.
Meaning like he will keep the school going and stuff like that. And he says like, you've taught me everything and stuff like that.
Right.
So like I like that. I wish there was a little bit more, because that is the Scott dynamic. Scott is... Xavier wants Scott to be the new leader of the mutants.
It was touched on, but it wasn't enough. We keep wanting more. We keep wanting more.
Yes, Psyche does not have enough to do in this series as a whole. Jean tries Cerebro. Scott freaks out because he sees her starting to do it, and the door is shut, and it hurts her, but she figures out where Rogue is and where they're going. We see a boat going to a shore near Ellis Island as Sabretooth disposes of a guard and Mystique disposed of another. They also know how to
The boat's
drive
probably
boats.
not as hard. You turn it on, you push the lever, and you turn the wheel. I don't think it's going to be quite as hard as the helicopter.
Fair. Fine. The gala looks very pointless. It looks like one of these things where a bunch of world leaders get together to talk about bullshit and not actually accomplish anything.
Right, they're just kissing each other's asses and drinking wine. That's about it.
The Brotherhood takes down the security from the statue. I thought a little bit of a wink. Mystique walks in and just kind of like smirks at Rogue a little bit as she like walks across the room.
Yeah.
Magneto comes in, and there's a little back and forth between Rogue and Magneto about the Statue of Liberty. Magneto says that he first saw her in 1947 or whenever he says.
Right. Because that's when he came to America.
Yeah, and that America was supposed to be the land of tolerance, of peace. Rogue asks him if he's going to kill her, and he doesn't have any reason to not say this, so he's like, yes, I am.
Yes, because I have to use you.
Yeah. And he's like, well, why? And he's like, because there is no tolerance, there is no peace. Their fate is going to be our fate. Their cause will be our cause. So he's saying, like, her sacrifice is going to be the reason that mutants are able to survive.
Sure.
And I do like at the end, he's like, I'm, you know, if that's a lot to take in, like, you know, I understand. We get a slightly pointless round table with a machine that thing that you put your hand in to make, or your face in to make.
Yes, I thought that too.
The little needle things.
Yes, little pins, and you put your hands in it. You can make the shapes. Yeah. It's great.
There's really no reason for this, but it's there.
It's futuristic-y. It's scientific. Yeah. It's, you know, fun. Makes maps.
It makes maps.
I don't know what else they
outline the plan. They're just gonna go. They're gonna stop at Ellis Island, or not Ellis Island, at Liberty Island, because they can tell that he's planning to use the Statue of Liberty to kind of project that wave out, and then that's going to hit everybody on Ellis Island. But if he uses enough energy, he could take out all of New York.
Right.
So we get the black leather outfits. And Rachel, what would you prefer? This or yellow spandex?
I mean, we're going to get that eventually, but...
You get that eventually.
We are going to.
I don't think
it'd be great.
I don't know if it...
It would have been a little bit too much because it's bright and colorful and crazy. I mean, they're supposed to be kind of stealthy, and they're supposed to be... So it makes sense that they would have darker uniforms.
And they look pretty awesome.
Yeah,
I don't think they don't look bad. Apparently, a lot of people were mad that they weren't the usual outfits, but it's like that
Storm in a crazy white bright costume with wings that looks like a flowing goddess. It's way too obvious. Like, people would see them.
She's got the cape.
Yeah, she does have a cape. She looks fantastic.
I don't disagree with the director and the producer's decisions to, like, let's go with all black leather. Matrix was big then too, so it makes sense that they're going to kind of copy that.
Even if they would have just gone with, like, the bright, like, royal blue, that might have still been too bright.
Too much. It made sense when you finally see it at, like, the end of that X-Men Apocalypse, which will...
Oh, see, I'm not even thinking about X-Men Apocalypse. I didn't even remember that he wore yellow in that one, so... Apparently, I don't remember that movie.
At the very end, it's not a good movie. At the very end of that movie, they're all wearing their comic-appropriate costumes.
Oh, right.
Apparently, these black outfits were terrible to move in, so all the actors...
They do look really stiff.
There's like a little thing of behind the scenes where James Marsden, who plays Cyclops, is like, you can't even move in this. Like, there's no way that you'd be a superhero, because you can't even move. So, like, not functional, so they'd have to have something that was a little more functional, but this probably looks better on screen than something that would be more baggy and functional.
Sure, they just need better leather that's actually, like, stretchy. Like, if they went with leather instead of real leather, maybe that would be better, you know? I don't know. A little bit more functional.
The jet comes out of the basketball court as the students watch on. Did going in the air cause Logan's claws to pop out? Because he, like, looks at him like he didn't expect them to pop out, and he's like...
I think he was just
trying to make a hole in the leather?
To make a hole. I think he was making a hole to make sure it would go through okay.
Okay.
Because he has to still be able to use his hands. Otherwise, he probably was just going to take off the gloves.
And from Westchester to Liberty Island, what's that, like a 10-minute ride in a plane? Like, that cannot be that long of a plane ride.
It'd have to be pretty short. They're in a jet, too, so...
This supersonic jet. Magneto knows they are here based on the fog. Scott's landing's pretty bad. You call that a landing. And then Scott sees the device at the bottom of the torch, and he realizes, like, okay, that's not supposed to be there.
Yeah, that looks a little funky.
To get up there, they have to go through the Statue of Liberty, like, gift shop and shit like that.
Right, they actually
go through the metal.
building.
They go through the metal detector. Logan sets it off because he's just nothing but metal. You get a little joke because they're all looking at him and Scott's giving him like a really, and then Logan gives him the finger using his middle claw.
Which, I mean,
little moment.
Look, you can't give me a really when I'm made of metal. I mean, I guess he could have gone around it, but like...
I liked it. I liked that little moment though of him like being like, fuck you.
Yeah, he kind of deserved it there.
Mystique is disguised as a statue in the middle of the floor, and because she saw that Logan has the claws, she can replicate the claws.
Yes.
Logan smells someone, Logan walks off because like he like smells someone, but he doesn't know like quite where. So he like goes off on the one side, and then on the other side, if you like look far enough in the back, you can kind of see like a shape kind of form, and then like Logan walks back out. Really like Mystique walking back out.
Sure, which is great.
She goes to attack Scott as Logan, but before she can, Logan tackles her, and we get a Logan versus Logan fight. And Mystique separates them because they're both like, wait! And then, like, because Scott's gonna, like, shoot one of them. And then Mystique kind of, like, shuts a door or something. There's a lot of, like, weird doors.
Yeah,
I
like,
think
why is there a garage door in here? It just seems really odd.
A lot of those kind of doors. And I think if you can try to justify it by being, like, there's a lot of displays, getting into, like, displays and stuff.
Yeah,
and
maybe.
back rooms and things like that.
It's gotta be
but
the
yeah,
back rooms, but... It's just weird.
Before Psych can do anything, Toad attacks, because he's like, I'm going to bust through the door, and then Toad attacks. He kicks Scott through another display case, he flings Storm up to the roof, and then he taunts Jean.
Yeah, he taunts Jean.
I never liked the little dance he does.
I don't even think I liked it as a kid.
He's Toad, though, so, like, I guess you're not supposed to, because it's fucking little Toad creepy.
I guess, but it was just like, why? Why does he do this weird little jig?
Yes, he does do a weird little jig. He goes to do something midair.
Yes.
Jean stops him by telekinetically, like, stopping him.
But then instead of, slamming him into the ground or anything... He spits in her face. Like,
what the hell is this exactly?
It's got to be some sort of thing from like a frog's stomach, is my guess. It's like one of those weird slimes or something. Maybe they use.
Okay.
So it's like hardened on her face.
Okay.
I feel like I know something about like a toad's stomach has some weird thing in it.
Folks at home, let us know.
But I don't know for sure. So I think he just like he spits this at her, and it's maybe it's like a buildup of like
what is this?
I don't know. It's so gross, but it's like hardened on her face. She can't even like peel it off.
He goes after Storm next. A lot of damage is happening to this gift shop. They are taking out rack after rack of these little Statue of Liberty gifts and stuff here as Toad fights. Scott struggles to get the whatever it is on Jean's face, and meanwhile Mystique transforms back and continues to beat up Logan. So there's this like supposed to be this like cool look of Mystique kind of doing like a mid-air kick, and she transforms back into herself.
Yes.
These two have some comic history too between Logan and Mystique. I think they're always kind of fighting at different points in the comic history, because Mystique is supposed to be like kind of the badass. I do like this fight. Do you think that they would allow Logan to fight Mystique nowadays? It being a man versus a woman?
Absolutely.
You do? Think that they'd still allow this fight? Okay.
Why wouldn't they? I feel like it makes sense for them to still fight.
I could see them getting backlash.
But she would show off and be like really fucking cool.
I don't disagree.
And strong.
I think
no, I don't know.
I really do not. But
why do you think it would get backlash?
Because people would be like, "Oh, it's like a man's beating up a woman and stuff like that." But they're shown as equals. They're superheroes.
No, they're way too into this woman power.
But I mean, somebody online is going to complain about something because everyone's a fucking idiot.
Always somebody that's going to complain. So yeah, that's going to happen. But no, I think they still can do it. I have no problem with it. So,
yeah,
in my opinion,
just throwing that out there.
They can do it. There you go. You're welcome, world. You can do this and have it.
You can do this. Rachel has given you permission to have another Mystique Wolverine fight in the future. She kicks him in the balls, so we get the call back, because then he looks like enraged about it. He starts to just swing violently and wildly, but she's just a better fighter than him, so she still kind of like controls the action.
Right.
And eventually she gets an escape and like gets out of there.
Right. Yeah, she's able to climb out.
Scott has to use the optic blast to shoot the thing off of Jean's face.
It's like a slime. It's gross.
Before the Toad can attack them, Storm is in fuck this mode, and it just
the best
going
mode for Storm,
nuts.
Honestly.
So she is just like causing as much rain, or not rain, but like wind, and like there's lightning and all
static
this wind. And it's just blasting Toad to shit. And Toad is like, go ahead.
This is the worst line in the entire movie.
Toad gets blown off onto the like a stage, like a little what did you call that?
A balcony?
Thank you. I could not think of the word. I could not.
They're
think
out
of
on the balcony. Or veranda. I don't know what you'd call this.
Yeah, the balcony's probably fine. Remember when we said Joss Whedon got a pass at the script? There were 2 lines kept from Joss Whedon's script. Rachel,
what was the other one?
What's this? I'll get to it.
Oh, okay.
So Storm, who has Toad's clinging to the edge of this balcony with his tongue.
On like the metal pole. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And she decides to get
She's going nuts. She's enjoying this. Do you know what happens to a toad when it's struck by lightning? The same thing that happens to everything else.
Yeah.
It's great. It's the best one line I've ever heard.
Yeah. That line alone should have prevented Joss Whedon from being able to direct any of the Marvel movies.
It's so bad.
Now, look, folks. We'll get to Avengers and Age of Ultron one day. We'll get to Joss Whedon. He's too quippy for his own fucking good sometimes. Mm-hmm. And this was clearly one of those times. I don't know why they kept this goddamn line.
I don't know. I feel like she didn't have to say that, or she could have said something else. Like, it was just so... Ugh.
According to Joss Whedon, it's supposed to be read sarcastically. And Bryan Singer doesn't understand sarcasm. So they just had to read it straight. That wouldn't have helped.
I don't think it would have helped.
That would not have helped that line.
Do you want to know what happens to a toad when it's struck by lightning? Well, the same thing that happens to everything else. How do you want me to say that? I don't know how to say it.
There's no way to say that, and it's not bad.
Can't. It's just... it's embarrassing.
And this poor gift shop just had everything just blown
Oh my
away
god.
by
The
Storm
way she just kind of went
crazy
and blasted the windows out of it.
So very badass moment for Storm.
Except for that line.
They could have come up with literally anything else for
That's right.
Next we see Storm find Logan, and Logan sniffs and stops her, and he says the other one ain't far away. And she says, well, we have to regroup. And he goes, there's a problem. You're not part of the group. And stabs her through the chest. And some of that. And it turns out to be Mystique. Because Mystique did not know that Logan could sniff her out.
Yes.
And she falls to the ground, and we see the 3 distinct stab wounds. They look smaller, though, than they probably would be if you got stabbed. So, I think Logan didn't go all the way.
I don't think he went all the way. Yeah.
Yeah.
He could have, went in and up and just, punctured her lungs and, punctured everything. But I don't think he did. I think he just went in and probably missed vital organs, is my assumption.
Yeah, something. Mm-hmm. Logan opens up a wall and says, it's me.
I love this one.
This is the other Joss Whedon line. So this one actually does
this
work.
This one makes me laugh.
Because, do you know why it works, though? Because it's playing off the characters.
Yes.
It's playing off the character dynamics, so it works. That other one is just a line that has nothing to do with anything.
A throwaway line.
That's why
because there was nothing to build up to that. If she would have been using it before that or something, and the toad would have said something stupid, but no, nothing.
Another claim by Joss Whedon is that throughout this fight, Toad kept saying, do you know what happens to a toad that does this? Or do you ever see a toad do this? So, that was supposed to be, then the third time was... That's a rumor. I don't know if Joss Whedon ever said that, but I read that as well, that, it was supposed to be a callback, but they only left the last one in. Again, that doesn't make it better. That still would have made it shitty. It would have at least explained why Storm said it.
It would have at least had something to, build on, but it just... Yeah. But this one...
Logan opens up the wall and says, it's me. And Scott says, prove it. And Logan goes, you're a dick. And Scott goes,
okay.
Hey, it's me.
Prove it.
You're a dick.
Okay.
Yes, that's a
that's
a good joke.
Yes.
That's a good joke.
Yes, it's just enough. It's just enough. You get to breathe with it, and then we get to keep going.
Yeah, I have only read a few of the issues of Joss Whedon's X-Men. He has a run on X-Men. Mm-hmm. They're good. They're pretty good. I don't remember if they were extremely quippy or not. Those were at least good. So again, I think it's just Joss Whedon thinks it needs to be kind of funny and quippy to be a movie, and I don't
Like, we're trying to take all of this and shove it into a movie. We have to make it quippy. We have to add all of these things.
Yeah, but
even though
we'll
this
complain
only
about
happens
that.
once in a while in the comics type of thing.
Right. We'll complain about that later. They regroup to the top of the observation deck and can see the machine at the top of the tower. Logan says everyone needs to get out now. I have to poop. He actually says... Do you remember that reference, Rachel?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Logan actually says he can't move. So then he knows that my watch has stopped. Because it's... That is one of my favorite moments of all time. When I was 5 years old, that blew my fucking mind. When we get to that Saturday morning shelf life. So Magneto shows up. Clearly just gonna wreak havoc here.
He shoves everybody into the walls, by the way.
Shoves everybody against the walls.
And uses, like, the
visor.
metal and, like, holds them to it.
And then even points Wolverine's claws against his chest so that he would have to
stab
take himself out.
And Jean and Scott are facing each other.
Yeah,
and that's
so Scott
when...
can't open his eyes or he'll blast Jean.
Exactly.
Jean says that she's seen Senator Kelly and he's dead. Storm says, yeah, I saw it. And he goes, are you sure you saw what you saw?
You know what I'm confused about? Actually, now that I'm thinking about this. Does Magneto think he's already dead when he falls out of the thing? And then they're like, we saw Senator Kelly. And he's like, oh, he was alive?
Yes.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yes,
like,
he does, because he says the senator survived his fall.
Oh, okay. So he does say that. That's true. So he thought he was dead. Oh, he's actually alive, and then...
Oh, he's actually alive, so he's even more powerful of a mutant than I thought. And then when she says, like, no, he's dead, because they're trying to explain to him, like, all those people are going to die because your machine doesn't work. And he's like, are you sure you saw what you saw? Like, he doesn't want to believe them.
Right. He's like, well, that's probably not how he died. I don't know what you're talking about. Like...
Right.
He just did something stupid because he's Senator Kelly. But...
Yeah. Yeah, like
that makes sense.
He did something dumb. He doesn't know how to use his mutant powers. He's a little bigot. He's a Homo sapien. He doesn't know what he's doing.
That's right.
There are fireworks going off for the world leaders, which is a nice, like, little background thing to happen at the same time here. Magneto is like, how do you not all get this? I'm trying to do something good here. We're fucked because these humans are going to do something stupid and ridiculous and, like, try to kill us.
Right.
I'm trying to make our fate theirs. Our fate will be theirs. Logan is right, though, Rachel, in my opinion.
Okay, go
because
on.
He says, you are so full of shit. If you were really so righteous, it'd be you in that thing.
Right. Yes.
And he's right.
You'd go out like a martyr, right? Isn't that, like, the whole idea?
If he really felt so strongly about it, he would sacrifice himself for the good of his brothers.
Right. You wouldn't sacrifice someone else. An innocent person.
He could maybe get away with being able to say, like, well, someone needs to lead the world, and it's going to be me. Them. But that's still not the self. Like, that's why I'm saying, like, you're not self-righteous. Like, you're full of shit.
Yes.
He floats back up amongst the fireworks. I thought that looked pretty good, like him floating and the fireworks in the background up to the top. Logan is desperate.
Well, because now he can hear Rogue screaming.
He can hear Rogue, and stabs himself off the wall.
Yeah, because I think he stabs into the metal and to slash it, but it also goes through his own body.
And he begins to fight Sabretooth, because he recovers, and then he is able to fight Sabretooth. Sabretooth throws Rogan around a little bit, throws Logan around a little bit onto the helm, and then they fight on top of the Statue of Liberty crown.
Right, which is great.
We get a little bit of bad CGI here.
Oh, yeah.
Logan, like, grabs one of the crown... What would you call that? Like a crown...
Like the spike, the spike thing?
I can't remember what that's called.
Which is like the spike of the crown. I don't know what you'd call it, actually. But, like, he kind of, like, holds on to it. It's not that bad. It's not horrible.
It's not great, but it looks fine.
But it keeps him on the head.
Magneto, meanwhile, is giving his power to Rogue. Logan takes the dog tag back, because Sabretooth has it as, like, a trophy, I guess, even though he didn't... Well, this is where, like, you could argue that he knows who Logan is, so he's keeping that dog tag or whatever.
That's a potential. Yeah, maybe.
Like, but again, like Sabretooth would have been calling him a runt and like, you don't remember who I am. Like, what?
Yeah, there's no. But again, there's no dialogue between Sabretooth and Wolverine at all.
No, not at all.
He only gets like 3 lines, and one of them is doubled, and he asks Storm to scream again. So it's like
Sabretooth thinks he threw Logan off. You get that little moment where Logan has to like claw the head, and of course it goes right between Jean and Scott.
Right.
Which I guess is supposed to be like metaphorical.
Oh, I guess true. Yeah, he's like slashing
Logan's
between
claw
them.
is between the two of them.
Yeah, I guess you could do that. Yeah.
Rogue's been raised into the machine, so that's starting to go.
It's worrying.
So yeah,
it's happening.
And Sabretooth comes back down to taunt Storm again. You owe me a scream, I believe is what he says.
It's so creepy.
But Logan shows up, calls him Bub. We get a hey Bub.
We finally get a Bub.
I like that. Apparently that was improvised by Logan because all of the actors said that they like read a ton of comic books, and apparently Logan really liked the fact that Hugh Jackman kept trying to like work Wolverineisms into the script, despite Bryan Singer being like, we're trying to keep this, you know, little non-comic booky. So he kept just saying Bub, and he was like, at some point they're gonna have to keep it.
I'm gonna keep doing it. Good luck taking them all out.
It's a good spot to put it too.
That is a good Bub.
It makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
He's got the visor in his hand, and he tells he goes, Jean, and Jean moves it for Scott, and Scott's like, I don't know about this, and she's like, just trust me, and she keeps it at an angle so that when he opens his eyes, it shoots Sabretooth. At an angle, and I think she manipulates the optic blast a bit too.
She has to be, right? She has to be manipulating his optics, which is insane. So. That's kind of crazy.
Well, as we kind of are learning, I think throughout this whole scene or this whole event, the Phoenix is coming out.
Yes.
She's not holding back as much anymore.
No, she's letting it go a little bit. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Sabretooth's taken out. And then they contemplate how they're going to stop these rings. Scott says he can't do it because if he just tries to shoot it, he'll kill her because the shrapnel will go everywhere.
Right.
So they're like, well, maybe we could send somebody up to it, and then they're like, well, no, because you could overshoot it, and Logan's like, well, then just shoot me to it.
Right.
And if I get overshot, then you can just blow the damn thing anyway. And yes, it'll kill Rogue, and that will...
But it saves everybody else.
But it saves everyone, and like, okay, that's our last resort then.
Right.
Storm's going to use the wind strong-ass wind to project big-ass, metal-ass Hugh Jackman.
Think about it. Like tornado wind.
It would have to be a tornado. Yeah. To send Logan into the air, Jean's going to steady him, and he has to like get to the top of this ring thing.
Yes.
I have a problem with this all, Rachel.
All right,
Not because of the physics of it or anything like that, because it's comic booky and whatever. It happens too quickly. There's no
happen
tension
very quickly.
They just do it, and he just grabs the top, and he's there.
Yeah, there's nothing like
there's
he almost overshot it,
and he has to like stab into the top with his claw or anything. He's just okay.
Jean has to like pull him back, like they do overshoot it, and she like has to pull back, and he's clawing for the machine.
Yeah,
no,
nothing. None of that happens.
Right,
he just guts on top of it.
It works.
So I think that's
it was a little lackluster. Yeah.
Before he can break the machine, Magneto stops him and starts turning his claws backward to torture him.
Could you feel the pain from like just turning them? Like, ugh.
Scott says he has a shot, and they're like, "No, you have to wait. You have to wait." Rogue's hair turns white, which if it didn't turn white, come on, it needs to turn white.
Well, all of her energy is being sucked out of her.
I'm going to tell you the story of how Rogue's hair turned white. Gather round, children. The bubble wave is approaching the island, and everyone's panicking, and all of the world leaders are like trying to rush off the island. And Scott says he has a shot, and he's going to take it. And this entire time he meant he's going to shoot Magneto, or he's going to try to shoot Magneto. He doesn't have control over Logan anymore. Logan breaks the machine.
Yes. Ta-da!
Jean has a stunned look on her face and is like,
do you think she was doing something?
So that's what I was wondering too. I don't know. And then I don't know if because she has kind of unleashed some more of her powers, clearly like the Phoenix Force has awakened a little bit in her.
It must have.
Some people speculate that the wave did it.
Oh, that's an interesting thought. Because it says, like does it affect mutants? We don't think it does.
They say it doesn't, but they don't really know. Yeah.
Right. That's
and
an
would it
interesting...
affect someone like Jean who has had part of her powers dampened by
forcibly
others?
Dampened by another power?
Yeah.
That's an interesting thought that
Yeah.
I've never actually thought about.
Because clearly something I always thought, as a kid, I always thought like, oh, she was like, oh, relieved. Like the actual way that Famke Jensen plays this,
she looks like something
happened to her.
Yeah. Like all of a sudden she's just like, oh my God, what just happened to me?
She feels something. Yeah.
Yes.
A wonderful bit of score here.
Oh my God.
I
love it so much.
This piece of music is fantastic. It's called Logan and Rogue. I think you can find the very specific piece of this called like Logan Holds Rogue.
Da, 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 da.
It's like a clarinet or an oboe, maybe.
It's just strings, Cuff.
No, there's like a clarinet or an oboe in there.
Like an oboe in the back, like it's a part of it, but it's mainly strings.
I don't think so. The main thing is like a...
That's a harp. That's a piano. And strings. Okay, now that
yes,
is an oboe.
Yes, I knew it was an oboe.
But I don't... Like, in the theatrical, it's mostly just the strings.
Okay. Maybe they toned down the oboe in the actual theatrical version, but love this track. I think a lot of the Michael Kamen track is not as memorable. Magneto's got a decent theme. The cello theme from Mystique, of course, is great. But this piece here is wonderful. So what's happening is Logan is holding Rogue, as the track would tell you. He's trying to wake Rogue up. He puts an ungloved hand on her face, because he's like, she just needs to recover.
Right.
Nothing happens, indicating that she's dead, and he kind of mourns her and starts crying. And then suddenly,
he wanted to protect her. That was his whole
magical
thing.
Magical tears, of course. It's a theme throughout all of fiction. I always
true though.
I never like the magical tears thing,
but
where
it's
like
not...
you think somebody's dead and then they're not. Yeah, you start crying and they come back to life.
Well, she just does. She's just passed out, and almost dead, to the point where her powers are
she needed
weakened.
to recover. Yeah, her powers were weak. Yeah.
Having him hold on to her long enough that it was able to suck that enough to bring her back to life, to bring that power back to her. It just took more time. So it's not a magical tears, but okay.
So she comes back. He gets the veins on his face, because we haven't mentioned it, but the way that you can tell that Rogue's power is affecting someone is like all these veins pop out on their face. Because like
they
that's
become
their
very
force
prominent. It's like
that's their life
pulling
force
through.
being pulled out. Yeah. His wounds come back from the Sabretooth fight, because they're like being taken away from him, the healing power. So like some of the gashes on his face and the stab wounds that he gave himself, like all of this is coming back. So then he just collapses because now he's like dead.
Right. Yeah, all of his wounds, I guess, from the past couple days.
Fight.
Yeah. Do you think it's just the Sabretooth fight?
I think it's just the Sabretooth fight, and then they show his like side is bleeding, and that's where he stabbed himself to get off the... Yeah.
Right.
The cops show up and find a security guard with Wolverine wounds that is alive.
Like the same wounds as Mystique. Interesting.
They should have kept that theme. That's one that they probably should have kept.
It was like an interesting one. I liked it. It was there's
it's
something
so
about
weird.
it. Yeah, it's weird,
yeah, it's
and
so
it like
different.
But it like gives you like that feeling of Mystique.
And it's just not. It doesn't sound like a comic book score.
It's kind of like
the
why
jet
I like
leaves.
It, I think.
The jet leaves Magneto for the authorities. Like you see Magneto on the top.
Right.
The old man has been shot, so he doesn't recover quickly. He's an old man.
Yeah, he needs a hospital.
Xavier wakes up and he asks like, "How did we do?"
At this point, I think this is where she was helping him on his way back, and she knew he was going to wake up.
That could be an issue of a comic book somewhere, of Jean inside Charles' head helping him find his way back. That has to be an issue somewhere.
I would love that, actually. That sounds kind of fun.
Logan is in the hospital bed next to him.
Patched up.
Eventually Eventually the wounds heal as he regains his power. We don't know how much time has passed. They make it sound like a lot of time has passed.
It could have been like a month.
Because Jean says that Rogue took on his personality traits for a little while.
Yes.
And they got used to it.
Yeah.
Or they lived with it.
So maybe
or
a
whatever
couple of weeks or something.
Couple of weeks or something.
Yeah.
There's a little piano version of the Logan Rogue theme here playing, which is also good. I like that part too. Jean thinks that Rogue has like a little crush on him, or at least is taken with him. Like she realizes Logan is like her protector.
Yeah,
I think more of what she's trying to get across.
I think it's definitely more of the protector. I'm connected with you now. I mean, she is physically connected to him.
Yeah,
he's always going to be with her. So I think she is taken with him that way.
Logan says, "My heart belongs to someone else," which I think he is talking about Jean. But Jean says, and then Logan cuts her off before she can say anything and asks, how's the professor?
Right.
As a kid, I always thought, like, oh, is he trying to say, like, he loves the school and he loves the professor and, like, that? But I don't think that's what it is.
No,
okay.
I think he means Jean. I think he means Jean. But he doesn't want to have that conversation yet.
It is too fast of an infatuation.
It is way too fast. I'm surprised he would have fallen that hard, that fast.
Yeah. Xavier tells Logan later on that you can go to Alkali Lake, and maybe you'll find something there. But he couldn't figure out anything else besides Alkali Lake, and there might be something underneath it, but that was all he could really figure out. Is he lying to Logan?
Does he know more than he's letting on?
Yeah.
I would assume.
Because how could he figure out Alkali Lake?
The professor hides a lot of stuff from a lot of people, so my assumption is yes.
And does he think like it needs to be Logan that finds this out for himself?
I think that's exactly what it is. I think he wants him to find out more information himself. Maybe that'll help open up the floodgates in his mind. He doesn't want to like just tell him it because it's not going to do anything. But if he goes and he sees it and feels it, maybe, I don't know. I don't know what his ulterior motives are here. But I agree. I do feel that.
Yeah, that he is lying a bit. Yeah, or keeping secrets.
He's keeping something.
Keeping a secret. On TV, Senator Kelly is there saying he was wrong about mutant registration. It's very clearly Mystique. She's having some trouble breathing. In fact, when she tries to walk away, and then the eyes turn yellow because she's not fully healed yet. Yes. We hear that parents' rights groups want registration. No shit. It's fucking parents' rights groups. Parents' rights groups. Whatever. And Gyrich, they found his dead body. He was mauled by a bear.
Oh.
So clearly Sabretooth killed him.
Clearly, right.
Before Logan can leave, Rogue stops him. And we get a call back here because she says the same thing to him that he said to her when they were on the train. Because she goes, "You running again?"
Yeah.
I like that. He says, not really. He's going to be back. He just needs to go take care of some things up north. She likes the white hair. She says, "I kind of like it."
I like it.
Having the white hair. This is as close as we were going to get to her saying some stupid little southern doodadism.
Oh, I kind of like it, sugar. Like, what is she going to say?
Yeah. I don't know. I just wish that we had a little more southern twangy nonsense
I do love her southern twangy nonsense. It is kind of wonderful.
He gives her the dog tag and says he'll be back for it.
Right.
And then he steals the bike because of course he does. We get a pan shot as he leaves of the Xavier School sign. It's kind of nice. I liked it because it's like, you know, you'll always be welcome here at Xavier School of Gifted Youngsters. Rachel, I once Google mapped that address that you can see on the front here.
Yeah.
If you do that, it does come up with a fake photo of Xavier School of Gifted Youngsters on Google Maps.
Oh, I love that.
So, like, if you look it up, I can't remember what it is, but if you if you just type in that address,
yes,
and not Xavier School, but you type in that address, Westchester, New York, you can like even Google map it and like go down the road. It's just like a country road in like the middle of nowhere.
Hilarious.
But then suddenly the mansion is there. I don't know if it still is like that, but it used to be. And then we get the closing scene of the movie. Charles and Eric are playing chess. They actually had to bring somebody in that understood chess because Patrick Stewart and Ian McKellen didn't know how to play chess, so they needed to like know how to do the moves and stuff. Apparently, Rachel, according to some stuff that I saw in the behind the scenes and the articles and people's commentary on things, the way that they're playing chess is indicative of their philosophy on the war that is coming.
Oh, I could see that.
Magneto is using his more overpowered pieces.
Yeah, because he's using. I can see that.
Charles is using the pawns.
Yeah, he's surrounding all of his like larger, like stronger pieces with pawns. You can see that.
You can see that Charles believes in the value of all the pieces, whereas Magneto believes only the strongest have real value.
Right.
And even at the end of this game, Charles beats Magneto with a pawn.
Mm-hmm.
This scene between these two might be
chessboard as well. So.
I do love this chessboard. Yeah, I was thinking about this, and regardless of what I end up saying about the movie as a whole in a minute, this might be one of my favorite comic book movie adaptation scenes. Just these two guys playing chess and talking about their philosophy.
Yeah.
Because Eric says, does it ever frighten you that they're going to pass that stupid law? And Charles is like, yeah, it does. And Eric's like, well, what do you do when you wake up in the middle of the night and you have that thought? And Charles says, I feel a great swell of pity for the poor soul that thinks that he can come into that house or whatever. Meaning, like, those kids will beat the shit out, like, they'll kill anybody that comes in there.
Take care
Which,
of
of course,
themselves. They're strong.
And it's a good foreshadowing of what the second movie is.
Right.
Why do you come here, Charles?
Why do you ask questions to which you already know the answers?
Yes. Your continuing search for hope. You know this plastic prison of theirs won't hold me forever. The war is still coming, Charles, and I intend to fight it. By any means necessary. And I will always be there. Old friend.
Yeah.
And as Charles leaves, Magneto knocks his king over. And then we finally get a bit of the swelling X-Men theme. We get that, like...
Yeah, it goes a little bit more.
And then it cuts out, kind of fades to black, and that is the end of the movie. Fade to credits.
And because this was, before all of those after the credits stuff,
that was
we do not have any of that. That was the end.
Yeah, and plain credits with that X-Men-y font that they were using,
Mm-hmm.
and they use throughout the series as they go through the cast, but that's about it.
Right.
So that is the end of X-Men from the year 2000. It's a long walk through there for an hour-and-a-half movie, but Rachel and I have a lot to discuss when it comes to X-Men.
Of course.
Always. So, Rachel, that means that it has come to that time of the show where I will ask you, after dissecting X-Men, after rewatching it, does X-Men have shelf life?
I don't know what to say.
Oh, Charles, after all this time, now you don't know what to say.
Maybe it's nostalgia, and maybe it's just because it is like X-Men, and it was like, a big deal.
It's your shelf.
I know it's my shelf, and I'm telling you what I'm gonna say.
All right.
Calm down. I would put it up on the shelf. I feel like I want to. I like the characters, and it's very corny. There's a lot of scenes where I'm just like, ugh. But then there's like a lot of stuff where I'm like, I want more from it, but I like what they've done, but give me more. So it's hard for me to say like, well, I don't want it on the shelf because it wasn't enough. Well, it was good, but I wanted more. And I love Xavier and Magneto's everything about them. They're dynamic and how they like work together and all of that kind of stuff. It's great. I like it. I like Wolverine. I like everybody. And I'm gonna put it on my shelf.
Okay.
I don't know what else to say.
And yeah, you've got the nostalgia factor.
And I have huge nostalgia for it. So it was like I'm quoting it the entire time. And I'm like, oh, I remember this, and oh, I remember that, and oh, I hated this line, but I remember it. It's stuck. So because it's stuck, I feel like it would go on my shelf.
I will say, by modern standards, like I said, it's a little sleepy. It's very character driven, so people might find it a little slow. I'm fine with that too. I don't mind that. Sometimes I don't think that they necessarily go far enough with those scenes, though.
Sure.
I wanted more of that. If you're going to go that direction and you're not going to have as much action or like adventure, then like you have to focus on more of that stuff.
Right.
And I don't think that's necessarily like the full measure and that they should have done necessarily. Some of the stuff is dropped or not set up enough probably too, but it's solid enough that it kind of makes sense there. If I wasn't an X-Men fan, if I wasn't a fan of comic books, I could see somebody grading this worse.
Yes.
Because
I could too. I couldn't too.
If you don't know these characters, they just kind of like throw some of the stuff at it.
Right.
That's not there if you don't know the characters.
That's
so fair. For some, I could definitely see that being an issue as well. It's a silly plot too. Like for as serious and as verisimilitude-y as it is, it's very strange. You're just going to convert everybody into mutants. Like how does any of this work?
Well, I don't even think he was going to convert everybody. I think he just wanted to convert
the leaders,
the main leaders, and just to like make them walk in their shoes.
Yeah.
Do it then. Sign that paper.
Roger Ebert's review said that he thought that it was very interesting and he kept waiting for like the shoe to drop or the next thing to happen, then it never kind of does.
Sure.
I get that. Because, like, me saying it's sleepy, it's because you kind of, like you're saying, like, you keep going, all right,
this is good.
Get
more
over the hump.
Yeah.
And I think that they reserve that for sequels. That's where it almost feels more modern, where it's like, oh, we'll just do it in the sequel. But back then you didn't know if you were going to get a fucking sequel. So, like,
sure.
Maybe they thought that would have been too much and they were actually reserving themselves. So kudos to that if that is the idea. Overall, though, I did think for a minute, is this going to be something where I say it's going to have to be in the box? Then rewatching it again to kind of take like notes and stuff the second time, I found myself liking it quite a bit more. Still finding it a bit of something that I would say is like a comfort movie of like, it's cold out, it's nighttime, I'm going to turn on X-Men. The first one. Because of the pace and the feelings that I have because of like how we ever watched it. With that being said, it's a comforting little movie for superhero standards. It gets on the shelf for me as well. It has shelf life. Because of the cast, because of the art style.
You had me worried there. I didn't know.
No. The directions that the producers take it and everything, it does have shelf life. Because I don't think it's perfect by any means. It's a good little movie. It's not great. It's not terrific. And because it sets up...
We'll do that.
Well, and Hugh Jackman's great, and Ian McKellen's great, and Patrick Stewart's great. It sets up a world that I think gets better in the next one.
Yes.
Spoiler alert. And gets better and worse over time as well, but it sets up a world that we can do a lot more with. So yes, this has shelf life for me as well. There was a second there. There's a second where I was like...
I had the same second. I was like, well, does it?
It's on the shelf. It's good enough to have on the shelf for sure.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah. That's why I was like, oh, I don't know what to say. Because it's like, I don't know if it's just because of all the nostalgia I had on it.
Right.
Because I came in, like watching it, I had so much nostalgia that it was just like, oh, everything's coming back.
But your word is truth, Rachel, because our
That's
opinion
true.
is the right opinion.
That's right.
Right. There's no other opinions can possibly be right.
Of
That's not how the
course.
world works. It's just one opinion is the right one. So.
Yeah, there's never multiple opinions on anything.
Cannot be. There cannot be.
It's not
there
all
cannot
right.
be. Right. Everything is very black and white. Yes or no. There is no such thing as discourse or what's it called when a nuance.
Yeah, there's no nuances. That's not a thing.
Reading comprehension and nuance definitely are there. Those cannot be things.
Oh, absolutely. Right. Yeah.
Anyway.
Is that sarcasm? I don't remember if we didn't understand sarcasm because of that toad line.
Well, because of the toad line, yeah.
I'm so confused now.
Sarcasm. Yes. Any parting thoughts, Rachel, before we send the folks home from our long episode here on X-Men?
Why do you ask questions in which you already know the answer?
Okay, so nothing. All right. That has been X-Men 2000. I keep saying X-Men 2000 like that's the name of the
It sounds
movie.
like Terminator.
That was X-Men. Cross it off the list, Rachel. It has shelf life. I have been Kevin.
And I'm Rachel.
And this has been Shelf Life. Be sure to like and subscribe and rate and review. Find us all the time as
Share
the
it.
volumes go on. This is
All
the
that
start
fun
of
stuff.
Volume 4, so there is more to come from here. This was the start. This was the opener.
That's right. It's a big
So
one.
where are we
Where's it all
going from
going?
here? Yeah. It's going to be great stuff. So be sure to check the back catalog, or you can actually check out the Volume 4 introduction to find out what else will be on this volume. But that being said, I already said our names. We will see you next time. Cerebro. We'll find you in Cerebro.
Magneto.
Cerebro.
Do you know what happens to a toad when it's struck by lightning? The same thing that happens to everything else.